Vegas Bad Boy of Podcasting is an entertainment-based wrestling program. The opinions shared are that of the host and their guest. Some celebrity voices are impersonated and usually not well. This program is not intended for kids and certain adults. Listeners' discretion is advised. You have been warned. Now let's get ready to podcast. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boy of Podcasting. I am your host, DJ Impact, and I got some of the bad boys here with me. Sin City Steve.
How we doing tonight, y'all?
Good. King Lucky.
Who's next? The retirement home is next.
Matt Michaels.
Breaking news. I don't know if anyone has seen this today, but according to sources, Vince McMahon's still alive.
Oh. Is that good or bad for the business?
God damn it, I'm here. Let's start the fucking show. I just finished writing it.
My bad.
Oh, that was it.
You're ending the show.
Right
when it gets started. That's it. It's a fucking wrap.
We've already been shut down. Vince heard that, and it's over, guys.
It was
Cease
a wrap.
and desist.
Yeah. So anyway, hey guys, this is going to be our Father's Day weekend special. So we're gonna do our 3 count, but don't forget to listen to our interview with Luke and PJ Hawx, our father and son edition. And then on Sunday's episode, we will have Damian Drake and his father Sean. So make sure you tune in to both of those. Our Father Day special, guys. This is something special,
yeah,
right?
That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
Bad boys with a soft spot.
Yeah, especially for you guys who are fathers. So happy Father's Day to you gentlemen here who are fathers.
Thank you. I do what I can.
And happy Father's Day to everyone listeling that's a father.
And
Right,
Sin
true.
City Steve has a kid that he doesn't know about somewhere.
Kid? Singular?
Yeah, maybe a few. All right.
Have we ever
Touche,
seen
my
Kevin
friend.
Owens' father?
Oh my God.
Guys, for you that have not seen Sin City Steve yet, and you should, check out our Instagram. Sin City Steve looks like Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
If you've seen Kevin Owens on our Instagram, that's not him. That's Sin City Steve.
Maybe if we take him up to Connecticut, maybe Vince would be like, I see a storyline.
Oh,
Two of them.
there it is.
So, funny story, and I shit you not. Before we even get into this.
Okay.
So, way back when Owens got signed to NXT, and he took his picture in ring with Triple H.
Right.
I get a message on my Facebook Messenger.
no fucking way.
Any guesses as to who sent me this message? My own fucking mother. Wow. When did you meet Triple H?
Dude, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Hand to God, I swear.
Wow.
Well, apparently we've been working with Kevin Owens the last 3 months, and nobody told us.
Right.
But you know what's even wilder is that his mom, the follow-up message was, oops, I meant to send that to your brother.
Well played, sir.
Awesome. Let's get to the 3 count, fellas.
It's time. Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting present 1, 2, 3. Count Talk.
Count Talk, baby.
Let's start with our first one.
1.
Okay, so we just got through with the Super Showdown.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
In wonderful Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
Wait.
sorry.
Wait,
Yeah.
where was the show again?
Jeddah,
It was in Jeddah.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Like
never would have
Volkswagen.
guessed.
Yeah.
So, hey, here's the question, straight up. We got to ask ourselves, when it comes to our legend superstars, when is enough enough?
All right, I'll take the
All right.
lead on this.
King Lucky, go right with it.
All right, so I'm a Goldberg fan. And I watched the match. The theatrics were great, the entrances, and I thought the match would probably be shorter than the entrances. And I didn't have a problem with the match until Goldberg didn't protect himself, and he did bust himself open. And then it seemed like he was recovering the whole time. And I was excited for the match, right?
Yeah.
I posted this. I was excited about it. And it just, toward the end of the match, it stunk it up. It wasn't the whole match in its totality, but it was the end of the match, the last two sequences where Goldberg went for, the jackhammer. Or first of all, before that, he went for, God knows, I don't even know what it was. And then the jackhammer, and it kind of botched both of them. So I was a little heartbroken, because I'm a fan of both guys. And this match, I didn't even notice it until I went through the show, and this match was the main event.
Right.
So your fans went home with that.
Yeah.
To his credit, though, Goldberg apologized for what happened, But yeah, it was a card wreck, Undertaker was visibly upset during the match.
Didn't he botch a move as well?
So first of all, there was the leg lock. That looked pretty bad. That Matt Riddle has been
Matt
hounding
Matt's been
Goldberg.
very vocal.
He's been very vocal on social media, which I think that's the wrong thing to do for him.
Yeah.
Because he'll just bury his career right there, And I'm a little bit upset that he did that. It's one thing to be, vocal, honest, transparent. But dude, you're just a couple months into the company. Scale it back a little bit,
right?
And so when you make that main event roster spot, you're gonna be in EC3 shoes, bro.
He's gonna be running after the title, after R-Truth.
Yeah, oof. He called out Brock already too. Just pipe down a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? His AEW contract kicks in 6 months.
Pretty much. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Should they just hang it up? Should Vince stop looking for the legend wrestlers to top off the shows? Or what? We just gonna keep bringing them out and possibly expecting what we had this past weekend? What do you guys think on that?
So, my thing is, with all of the Saudi Arabia shows, they've largely been booked by someone externally. And by that, obviously, I'm speaking of, the Prince in Saudi Arabia. As far as setting demands or requests, I should say, not demands.
Right.
But requests for wrestlers that he'd like to have on the show.
Sure.
You can go back and look at one of the previous shows. He asked for fucking Yokozuna to be on the show. Yokozuna's been dead for a decade.
Oh my god!
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he asked for that kind of thing, and
what he got, Daryl.
Yeah.
Because I know that you don't watch the Saudi shows.
Right.
What he got was some fucking sumo someone from. No association with WWE. They just brought him in to be part of the Battle Royal because that's what the Prince wanted.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, whenever you have somebody externally, setting up things that he'd like to see on the show, obviously it leaves you wide open for that. And let's be real. This all goes back to the fact that WWE has done a piss poor job of creating superstars ever since the Attitude Era. Once the era of Stone Cold and The Rock faded, you built your company on one, maybe two guys. And obviously I'm speaking about John Cena and, in a very distant degree, Randy Orton. So I think that it kind of comes full circle because the Prince doesn't really know anyone else in the Fed, and obviously I'm speaking for him on that.
Right.
But in all reality, there are no real major names that casual fans or people that don't watch the product all the time, or even part of the time,
right,
that they know. So it's one of those things where for all those years that Vince wanted to strap a rocket to John Cena's back and, you know, put him over as the only guy in the company. And like I said, in a very distant second, Randy Orton, that's what you leave yourself open for. And so, you know, you reap what you sow. So that's something that is a definite issue. As far as keeping those guys at the top of the card,
okay,
you know, it's one of those situations where you have to draw in the casuals. And again, that's where it all ties back together. I think that once, you know, I don't believe that these Saudi shows are canonical, meaning I don't think that they really do anything storyline wise to further any stories or anything of that nature. So you could take these shows out of the overall calendar and out of the grand scheme of things, and you wouldn't miss anything. This like the others was a glorified house show.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, you didn't miss much, D.
Yeah.
And for probably the same reasons, or pretty close to the reasons, I don't want to speak for you.
Sure.
I did not watch the full show. I watched the show via clips and through YouTube.
Okay.
So it was one of those things where I didn't want to sit down and devote all of the time necessary to this particular show. However, I did see everything in the Taker Goldberg match post Goldberg knocking himself out, which he did that 20 some odd years ago on in a match against Chronic in WCW. And so it was eerily familiar to that. And you know, I think that a lot of blame is being put onto Goldberg. And partially rightly so, in my opinion, because had he not misjudged the distance or something along that line, he wouldn't have hit his head on the pole. He would not have knocked himself out. He would not have given himself a concussion, and he wouldn't have impaired himself for the remainder of the match.
Yeah.
Right.
So when that happened, obviously, you know, you've got Taker going for a tombstone on the guy, and obviously, Goldberg is supposed to tuck his chin. Well, he didn't tuck his chin for whatever reason. I would venture to guess that it's because he hit himself on the pole.
Yeah.
And wasn't right mentally. So, you know, that could be attributed to Goldberg knocking himself out. It's one of those things that's really unfortunate because, as Lucky had mentioned, the match was... It exceeded my expectations until that happened. I was not expecting this match to be worth 2 drops of piss. But no, these guys, up until that point, it was very good. And then it went off a cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, so Michaels, I guess they said combined age is 106 years. I mean, I'm sure Taker would probably say, "Hey, I can still go." And I guess in some way he proved it. But what do you think? Do you think it's just time just to really just hang it up?
Well, you know, the it comes down to this. First of all, this is something like Steve just said. Mm-hmm. It's not in the canon of the stories. This was done out of money.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, sole purpose.
Yeah.
Anyone who complains or bitches can eat it because you're totally missing the point. The point is the show is not for you. The show was for those people in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that you said, Lucky, the fans went home disappointed. Well, I don't know any of these fans. You know, you might have been disappointed. We might have been disappointed. But the Saudi fans, we don't hear from them. You know, this is not a state in which there is a lot of openness and freedom, even though there is, you know, all this money and this, you know, people just get this confused with, you know, showing capitalism doesn't mean it's a free society.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Undertaker in himself, I think that the problem with what is going on with him is that he was winded. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
he was pretty gassed. So yeah, you do need help getting the tombstone up. Goldberg probably should have tucked his head a little bit, but also in the clip, the trajectory that Taker had wasn't. He didn't have Goldberg's body where it was the straight perpendicular up and down.
Okay. Yeah.
The way he launched him, Goldberg actually kind of slipped out of his arms.
Okay.
So he was coming at an angle that was more so a slant, and that's what. And again, when I saw this, my gut. I mean, I literally. I was falling asleep during the show. It really was. It was. There just was no pizzazz to it in terms of it was, kind of hard to get through, and it's in the middle of the afternoon, and it's just like,
Yeah.
But that was the one moment that I literally went, "Oh fuck," because Bill's head went straight into the mat.
Yeah.
He's lucky he didn't get
Yeah.
have some kind of neck injury, some kind of paralyzation. So, was it part of Goldberg having a concussion? Absolutely. Bully Ray said on Busted Open, "You want to tell me that you didn't like the match? That's one thing. At least give these guys credit for going out there and working their balls off, trying their hardest, and doing whatever they can to have a good match.
Yeah.
If not for the last 2 minutes, I think everything was going fine, despite the fact that Bill got his bell rung."
Yeah.
Which is a very, very fine analogy of it, which is, it's true. Yeah, I mean, Bill, he should have protected himself a little bit more, but at the same time, when you're hyped up and you're in the moment and you do it, sometimes things go wrong. It's like, you really, unless you do it yourself and you're in the moment yourself, it's so unfair to criticize when you can't relate to actually being in the same boots.
Right. Yeah.
Now if it's like what Riddle's stirring up, the fuck, I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to do, why he's saying it. Is it giving him attention? Obviously, because people are talking about it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Maybe he's just trying to get attention. Maybe he's trying to get a match with fucking Goldberg or Undertaker. You know what I'm saying? Like elevating himself.
I think there's different ways to do that, and in this case, I think he's going about it the wrong way.
Says who though?
I mean, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Who?
But listen,
who did it rub the wrong way?
You can read below the post and you see the comments, and you can. I mean, it was like a 50-50 split.
But who are these comments coming from?
Like fans?
Yeah, fans.
Okay.
That's who the fuck cares? The fans are not booking this shit. That's the point. The point is that this gets you. Sometimes I think we lose perspective of when you want to get the attention of the office, do something fucking out there. Look at Woo Woo.
Yeah,
Woo 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 would not have started without him doing his
Woo Woo
his little YouTube show.
Well, also interesting is Velveteen Dream came out on his Instagram story and said that the fans are giving unfair criticism to Vince right now. And everybody's criticizing Vince for the way he's booking the shows and the decisions that he's making. But he's saying it's more on the stars or the superstars, if you will, to rise to the level and sell, themselves versus what's being written for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a fair, true statement. And the other thing too is, and I think this is true about what you're saying in terms of when you have the same faces and you have the same top tier people, then it's hard to, make your name for yourself, break through and whatnot. And I think that part of it has to do with the fact that when you have 60 people, 70 people, 80 people employed, listen, they did a 50-man battle royal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in this fucking company.
There was still about 80 people left backstage.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. That's what it comes down to. Who does Vince really actually know? And if you listen to other shows, you listen to Bruce Pritchard, you listen to, people who have been backstage and what goes on. One of the reasons Edge and Christian became who they were is because they hooked up with the right writer. Mm-hmm. And he's the one who created material with them together that brought the attention to Vince.
Gotcha.
Right? Really, seriously, I tell you, there's probably half the roster. Vince will go backstage and go, excuse me, can you give me a cup of coffee, please?
Well, let me ask you this then. Who can EC3 grab to get in their ear and write some lines for them? Because he just seems like it is just a lost cause.
I don't know. I don't know who's writing on the staff. If I knew the writing staff, then I'd be able to say. But I don't. And I don't know. I also don't know EC3's personality.
Is he that creative? Right. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Does he have stuff that he's got for the writers, Because part of this is you have to create stuff for yourself.
Right. I mean, a good body, a good look, a decent ring ethic, that, it's going to get you so far, but, is a part of your personality. Listen, DDP is the greatest example of a wrestler who trudged and trudged and trudged, and you go back on the network, look at early DDP stuff, and you go, who the fuck's that guy? It's like a fucking jobber, man.
Yeah.
And then he finally found the niche, and he also, because Eric was running the company, he had someone he was, that he was close to, and that was comfortable knowing who he was, that they were able to take that and then promote it and go with it because Eric could trust him.
Gotcha.
I think and that's the biggest factor when why do you always go back to John Cena, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton? Why do you keep going back to those, Daniel Bryan? Because they're trusted commodities. And that's the hardest thing. Look at Kofi. 11 years. It took 11 years for Vince to finally go, okay, I trust this guy.
Yep.
So,
wow.
Yeah, that's my. It's a perspective.
So
I can't say it's.
So just to
real.
finish up, Legends, a part of the show or not? King Lucky.
I'm going a part of the show. I mean, like I said, the match was going very good, or as good as it could go for those guys until the last, few sequences. But I'm still sold on. Even if Goldberg came back for another match, I'm sold.
Okay, Sin City Steve, Legend, stay or go?
I think stay, but not main event.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you're using them to bring in casual fans, then spotlight the guys that you want to spotlight.
Yeah.
So that you can plant those seeds for the future, so that you're not in the same situation.
Right. Michaels.
I think that the idea of a main event is, and we really don't see it. Honestly, if you think about it, in WrestleMania, if the Undertaker is on the card, he's not the main event right now.
Right.
So, you can bring in these guys. They're not going to be the main event. I think that's fine. In this case, it wasn't Vince booking the show, essentially. It was the Prince booking the show.
Gotcha.
Fine. The one thing I do have to say, though, in watching that Goldberg, entrance, I was really, really scared because we had a guy who's Bill Goldberg and a Saudi escort, which I was thinking that maybe he wouldn't make it out to the ring. That's just me.
You're not the only one.
All right, let's go to our second ring count. Okay, so this came across my desk the other night. California law could cause big trouble for WWE and California independent wrestling. And the question I'm going to pose to you guys is, do you think wrestling promotions would get their act together if this bill passes, or will California become a place no longer for wrestling? Now, just to go a little bit over the story, it was This was in bodyslam.net. They talked about a bill that was passed, but it still has to go through it was already passed through the House, and is halfway to becoming law. So what it is pretty much, as we know, California is one of those states that really is all about the workers. They've been that way for some time now, and they want, when these promotions to come through, their wrestlers to be employees, not independent contractors. And if for some reason they can't be employees, then the promotion can't come through. And that's just not for WWE, that's for all of them. So the question really becomes, what do you think is going to happen with this? I mean, you have two choices. They're either going to become employees, or they're just not going to California. What do you guys think on this?
It's tough because first it has to pass, right?
True.
And there's just so much money involved in this that I don't know that it will. Mm-hmm. Because
I'm sure someone is lobbying that.
Yeah. To say that, let's say, for instance, WWE, because we're a wrestling podcast, right, would not go to California, and they run quite a few shows. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money. You know, you think up and down California, from the Bay down to Southern California to, San Diego, you name it all. But they run quite a bit of shows in that area and in that state. I just don't know if it'll pass. However, if it did pass and you couldn't have wrestling in California, right? Bring it to Vegas. We are the Vegas bad boys. But I just have a problem with thinking that this will pass. I don't think it will. I mean,
yeah.
Is it right for the employees or right for the independent workers? Yes. But I just don't think it'll pass. I think there's too much money at stake.
So it's all about the money, huh?
It always is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, to echo what you're saying, it has to pass. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that Vince or anybody really within WWE gives a damn about this until it passes, because it's not real, pal. It's realistically, we're all just fantasy booking this shit, just like we fantasy book pay-per-views.
Yeah.
So realistically, I mean, the bill itself, AB 5, giving the labor protections, benefits like healthcare, overtime, minimum wage, to many workers formerly labeled as independent contractors. Keep in mind, that's not just going to affect the wrestling business, like what you said, D.
Right.
That's going to affect everybody from Uber, Lyft, all sorts of these companies. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at it from a macro scale. It's not just from a wrestling scale. Obviously, we tend to be a wrestling podcast, as was said, but with issues like this, it extends miles beyond the squared circle. And as with everything else in our litigious society, it's all based on money. So until it passed the House in California, once it passes the Senate, then it will be up for approval by the governor.
Sure.
So if that happens, then I'm not going to lie, I'm very happy that I don't have to make the decision on what to do next. But lucky you bring up a great point too. We are in Vegas. We're an hour from California,
yeah,
roughly. So hell, I can't say that I would be too upset if Vegas became the new West Coast hub for WWE.
I would not be upset either.
So
Michael's
we're going to do a couple different tangents on this. The first is the aspect of what you're talking about, Steve, in terms of Uber and Lyft. This is where this started from. This bill was basically something that came out of the frustration from the drivers who literally work the maximum hours that you can work one shift on Uber and get off of that platform and get onto Lyft. So some of the drivers are literally driving 24, 26, 28 hours straight.
Jesus, for real?
Yes. Yeah. So some of them sleep in their cars. This is one of the reasons that this bill even exists, is to give a little more security where they're not being taken advantage of. I personally do DoorDash, right?
Right.
I've worked for other companies that are app-based companies, including Uber. DoorDash, it would be great if there was some kind of regulation, because what they get away with is they guarantee you $7 a delivery. Okay? However, the minimum amount the company has to pay you is $1 out of their pocket. If you are tipped $6 by your customer,
Yeah.
you now get your $7 minimum met by the company paying $1, and your tip is now going towards your salary. So anyone who tips, this is a little secret for anyone who uses DoorDash, and you tip cash, because the company then has to cover that $7. So basically, anyone out there, if you use DoorDash and you're tipping on the app, you are literally paying the salary of your driver instead of the company. So if you do a $4 tip, the company pays $3, you're paying $4. You're still giving the driver more salary than the company is. Okay? So that is something, DoorDash is one of the last companies that's getting away with this. So that's something that these kind of bills are rising to fight. Now, the next part of this is California. Here's the deal. First off, I don't think that I looked at the article you sent.
Sure.
And I think this was all hypothesized. Because there were no actual facts that laid out anything in particular, other than someone who saw this, issue come up and then went, oh, well, the wrestlers are independent contractors, so therefore 2 and 1. The problem here is this. A, when you're talking WWE, these guys are independently contracted in Stamford, Connecticut. So if they're brought in to wrestle, they're not employees in California, even though they can get taxed, right, by the state, because the state likes to make their money. They're not going to give up that tax money, A. And B, they're going to find a way to get around that. Number 2, being in the entertainment industry, I'm going to tell you right now, if this law applies to every single instance of independent contractors, you'll have no television production work going on in California anymore. Because reality TV, game shows, non-union productions in general, they are all freelance.
Right.
And if this encompasses that aspect, it takes that away, which means that all of those companies move. California will never let that happen.
Right.
Because they're already fucked as it is with their tax breaks not being enough for companies that leave to places like Atlanta, Canada, etc. Right?
Right.
So what it comes down to is that when you work in the entertainment business, you are basically hired in as a production assistant, let's say, for $700 a week. Okay? That's agreed upon for the duration of the 6 weeks or 8 weeks you work on whatever show it is. If you get overtime, you don't get paid extra. If you work 3 hours that day,
Yeah.
you don't get paid less. You're guaranteed $700 for a week. Okay? So that's how it works. And the entertainment business has been able to use this as a skirt around for years and years and years. And even with a bill being introduced, I can guarantee that within the bill, which I've not read,
Okay.
that there is probably stuff in there that protects these companies that
Probably.
are in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So I don't think Vince has anything to worry about. I don't think any wrestling company has anything to worry about, because it's a different form of independent contractor than the heart of this matter, which is those people who are doing this by companies using this almost as a way to get around paying health insurance, et cetera, et cetera. Entertainment does it as well, but it's too much of a per capita for California to basically blanket the whole thing. So, in a sense, I appreciate the enthusiasm and thought of the article and its writer's intent. But in reality, I call bullshit on it. So, and I think you're right, Steve. Until the bill actually passes, until we know what's in it, until, the circumstances are figured out. I know this is not very entertaining because it is very dry, but at the same time, this is the kind of shit that really gets things blurred in terms of, when there's a frenzy of recent talk about, and in fact, in this article, it mentioned John Oliver in particular.
Yep.
Well, because that got brought to the spotlight, now it's out there, and then it just becomes that, anyone on a wrestling website or even on this show can, with the podcast, you can just say this and
there it is.
There it is. So I call bullshit on them, and I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean it in, it's not an issue.
Let me tell you something. If WWE is no longer in California, Matt Michaels, you're being sent there. All right, man. Let's get to our third count. Okay, so everybody has an opinion as to what WWE needs to do regarding everything within its business, but Sportskeeda.com mentioned 4 blockbuster WWE returns and storylines that would drastically improve the fallen TV ratings. Now, is it as simple as these 4 examples, or is there a more simpler approach, like maybe just having a strong storyline that can fix the ratings issue? First, let's mention the 4 examples, though, that they mentioned.
Please do.
This is for
Michaels is ready to shred him.
And this is for King Lucky. I know he's all for it. He's going to say, I agree to all of them.
All right.
Here's the first one. The Rock returns for another title run. Okay. You got Roman Reigns turns heel.
Oh.
John Cena returns and turns heel.
Okay.
And CM Punk returns.
Well, the last one definitely ain't happening.
But okay, so that's their blockbuster returns or storylines that would improve the falling TV ratings. But again, I'm asking, is it as simple as those 4 examples, or is it just as simple as, hey, just fix your storyline and work with the existing talent you have? Go, King.
You guys know how much I love the fantasy book, so I don't think that these returns fix the problem entirely, right? I think you got to start from the top and kind of strip this thing down. I think there's too many writers involved in the process. I don't know how many there are, but I do think that there's too many writers involved in the process. Yes, you can give some scripts to people and kind of make them hit points and things like that. But at a certain point, you got to just kind of let the talent, be able to facilitate their own ideas and things like that, and let the fans catch fire with it. Because if you look at some of the things that, maybe Becky or Kofi Kingston over this last year have caught fire with, you don't know if it's scripted or not, but you can tell it wasn't part of the original plan. The working plan for WrestleMania was Charlotte versus Ronda. Here comes Becky Lynch out of nowhere like a lightning bolt. She catches fire, and then boom, she's inserted into the main event. Kofi Kingston wasn't supposed to be part of the Elimination Chamber. Ali gets, injured, and then there you go. So I think the returns would be great. One, I don't think Punk is ever coming back. I think he's not motivated by money. Vince can throw a whole bunch of money at him, but I think the disrespect, sending him the separation papers on his wedding day is probably more important to him.
Yeah.
To say, I'll never go back. Rock returning, I love to see it. I've been calling for it for a while.
Yes,
it
you
just
have.
hasn't happened. I don't think he comes back in a long term, in a capacity, because the last time that happened, he got injured, right? And so it could be a liability to his movie career. And then John Cena, same thing. He's gone to Hollywood. So I don't think he'll ever come back in a full-term capacity. It could be some stretches, but, does he really want to come back and just put people over? So I don't say no. I say no. The comebacks don't fix everything.
Sin City. Come on, man. If we get The Rock return and Roman turns heel and Cena turns heel, boom, the ratings spike.
Wish in one hand and shit in the other. See which one fills up first. Seriously, though.
Oh, man, I thought you said piss in one hand. Oh, no.
Clean up on aisle 3. In all seriousness, though, all those things would do a temporary rating spike. Mm-hmm. Okay. What was it that we heard from WWE's own personnel, that ratings don't matter anymore? They've said that. Ratings don't matter anymore. Well, if you're talking out of that side of your mouth, and then if you're looking to up the ratings, you're talking out of the other side of your mouth. So this is another thing that WWE has long been doing. They've been speaking out of both sides of their mouth. And to circle back to a point that you made, Lucky, I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia page right now for WWE personnel. Okay. For creative team, there are 10 members to the creative team. Okay. For producers, now obviously people can be, part-time with this. They can, produce things on and off, yada yada. There are 28.
Oh. Oh my god!
But don't they call their match the agents are now producers? Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So in any event, let's even say that half of those are mainstays. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then you're looking at 24 combined between the creative team and the producers.
Still a lot of people.
Yeah, that's
too many cooks in the kitchen.
That is too many cooks in the kitchen.
When the only cook that matters is Vince.
Yeah.
Everyone on the creative team, they can come up with these storylines. They can come up with these long-term booking angles. They can come up with whatever the hell that people think will solve the ratings issues and will turn this company around, yada, yada, blah, 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 whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you're writing for an audience of one. How many times have we heard that? You have to write to appease Vince. And if Vince isn't occupied or happy, then it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So, that's why we see these revisions to the shows occurring up until the start of the show. And in some cases, the show's being rewritten while the show's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
So, I don't know if I would put the fault necessarily with the creative team. Now, some things, yes. But the blame rides on one man's shoulders, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The man that, I'll be real, without Vince McMahon, none of us would be here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We would not be doing this podcast. You would not be listening to this podcast. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. Vince created a lot of what we see today.
Yeah,
sure.
And the case could be made that if Vince would not have come around, that things would still be in a territorial base. And obviously, that it's easy to go back and say, well, this would happen and that would happen. But if you just went and you just plucked Vince right out of history, we wouldn't be here unless someone else stepped up to the plate and did what Vince did.
You just plugged Vince out of history, and I heard Vern Gagne's grave open up.
Yeah,
The opportunity is finally there. He's excited.
Oh, man.
yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things. You can fantasy book it all you want, but at the end of the day, we have to go and we have to see this thing through. No changes that any one person or, any couple of people are going to make will change the course of this, other than Vince. He has the ultimate veto power.
Yeah.
It's really difficult because, like I said, we owe so much. Realistically, we owe a lot to Vince. But at the same time, he, being the forward-thinking individual that he was, and I hope still is, should realize that he needs to loosen his grip a little bit for the sake of the business.
Right. Matt Michaels, go ahead and say it. CM Punk should just return, and the ratings will be spikeful for a long time.
Well, I think that when CM Punk debuts for AEW, it's going to be amazing.
You're not wrong.
Boy. Let me first ask you guys a question. You guys watch Saturday Night Live still?
Nope.
I occasionally do.
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay. So it's very interesting. You don't see a lot of the people who write on these websites and stuff compare the two, but you have a very viable comparison. Big difference. WWE, of course, is doing 2 weekly television shows, plus an NXT, plus an NXT UK, plus a 205 Live, plus so they have a lot of television to fill.
Yeah.
So that's why you do have a lot of producers. Also with wrestling, you do have to have those people who produce in-ring and then produce backstage segments and vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
So in Saturday Night Live, you have a table read, or a table pitch actually, on Monday mornings, that everyone who's a writer on the show, and I think they probably have somewhere around 24 people, okay, which includes some who are cast members / writers, okay. They have to pitch ideas for sketches for this coming week for the show that includes a new host, right?
Right.
Every week.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to basically get your ideas out there and get them approved by one person, Lauren Michaels.
Yep.
This is basically, in a different capacity, the same idea that the WWE runs under.
Yeah.
And what happens on Saturday Night Live is that when people find out, someone like a Will Ferrell, right? Will Ferrell was used in so many sketches. Kristen Wiig was used in so many sketches.
Yeah.
Why? Because when they found out that these guys could be used to the diversity that they could be used, that was your way of getting your sketch on the show. Okay?
Okay.
So, in the same light, if you think of the WWE in this manner, if you bring up The Rock or you bring up John Cena, you're going to get something done,
Right.
because this is a proven commodity. There's
Sure.
someone, again, there's a trust level already built.
Yeah.
Now, certain ideas, like turning Roman Reigns heel, that's a great idea. I've been saying that for years.
Absolutely.
Why the fuck not? But the thing is A, it cuts into your merchandise. Okay, so this is another aspect of a business.
Yes.
It's something like Saturday Night Live doesn't have to think about the merchandising. But WWE, a lot of fucking money comes in through that. Okay? It's also a publicly traded company, unlike Saturday Night Live, which is a private, entity.
Right.
And Saturday Night Live also has to answer to the television network. Vince is now possibly going to have to answer to Fox And USA usually had always bent over for them. So it's a little different situation, possibly. So in the end, the idea of changing someone from face to heel, it could be entertaining. Is it going to boost your ratings? No, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You might actually lose money on merchandising.
Yeah.
Possibly. So do you take that, Also, I think, when Steve, you said John Cena, Randy Orton, I don't even think in some ways Randy Orton is in that level. I think that it was Cena and then Roman Reigns. Because those guys are your merchandise sellers, your Hulk Hogan's, your Steve Austin's.
There's always a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Where Randy never hit that peak. And Roman, they're still trying to groom him because Roman is now starting to break into the movie business. This is another thing that they're doing that they never did before. And that is when WWE started making movies, they did that so that they could make their own commodities.
Yeah.
Because Vince saw what the fuck happened with Rock and said, well, why the fuck can't we do that? Why do we have to let him go somewhere else to do that? We can just make him movie stars. Cena was the first person. Look what happened to Cena's career. It fucking skyrocketed. You made him a face. You made him the Marine. And it's never looked back.
Yeah.
Arguably biggest superstar of his generation, right?
Right.
Because of the fact that they use different, ways to make that happen. The problem is that right now they haven't reached into their bag of tricks to make that next face yet. And that's what we need to see.
When's the last time you seen a WWE film? It's been a while, right? That
WWE
I can
film?
recall. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? The thing is they still the Marine series has never died.
Although they did just do that. I mean, this was a little bit removed, but they did do the movie with Becky, and now, so you might have a point to that.
Yeah, I mean, in some instances, the Marine has kept Miz.
Yeah,
It's one of the reasons that Miz is, has not done other things is they've kept him satisfied. Bringing back The Rock, the fuck? It's like that's the dumbest thing. Like Rocky's, and this is what I think John is finally realizing too, is that even though he loves it, and I'm sure The Rock loves it as well, because there's nothing like a Russia going out to a football stadium full of fans.
Sure.
But at the same time, if you don't have to put your body through that full physical shit all the time,
and the paycheck is bigger in the movie.
Yeah.
Why would you?
And movies, you're doing something. Look at the Rock is a great example. You do 2-3 films a year, you're set. And then you can do your own projects like the movie about Paige's family. You can do the television show that's basically American Gladiators that actually is drawing in ratings.
Yeah.
That was actually the last WWE film, was the Page family one, right? Because I finally just watched it like 2 weeks ago, and I saw the WWE logo pop up on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that would have been kind of
That was the last one that has actually been in the theaters.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Because I mean everything is home video because home video makes more money than having to go through the contracting in the theaters and the distribution and all that. You do your own distribution, you cut down costs, and people are going to see the stuff streaming.
Would they be smart to make films like that and pump them through the WWE network and build your stars like that?
You know what? I think that you're actually going to end up seeing that at some point. It all depends. I'm not sure what their legal contracts are in terms of their distribution.
Yeah.
So, but I think at some point, if they decide that if they're going to tier the network price-wise,
You got some
Why
mini
not?
series in there. You got some other reality
Yeah.
TV shows. I mean, the stuff that they put on right now, like the 24 and the 365 and those kind of things are very well produced. So you could build stars through that.
Well, and they're doing it at no cost, essentially. Whereas if you do the movies, the reason that in the end you try to find a distributor and don't distribute it yourself is because of the fact that the distributor ends up taking a lot of cost off your hands.
Gotcha.
So in the end, what ends up happening is basically if they decide that when they get the licensing rights back to certain things that might expire, then they can do essentially what Disney's doing with
Disney,
Marvel, and starting their own. Yeah. I think what, in a weird way, I think really Disney's model right now is the absolute end-all goal of what they're doing. So they have been acquiring all these different rights, to all the different wrestling
properties,
exactly. And in the end all be all, I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to tear it off where you can get full access. You'll have ability to line things up and stream things a certain way that you want to stream. The platform they run on is the same that the MLB uses, which is a very, very strong platform. You rarely see any issues with, think about how many people are watching a pay-per-view at the same time.
Yeah.
And you don't see, you don't see the
You never
issues.
really get a hiccup.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, because I just thinking about this, Roman Reigns is probably 4 or 5 years into his career on like that superstar level, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to start planning for the future, and by no means, right now he's still the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would you strap a rocket to their back and make the next main event? Somebody that can be his Stone Cold to Rock or Triple H to Rock, or just who else could be that person?
I think we're seeing it right now in the best in the world, Shane McMahon. Sorry, I for the record, I would like to see him at one point wrestle, somebody like Okada or something of that nature, though.
Oh man, that'd be. Yeah.
Anyway, no, realistically, I think that you could take somebody like a Ricochet.
Okay.
And you could embrace the newer type of a fan that realistically is wanting to see the flippy shit and
Well, not just that. Watching Ricochet in Cesaro matches.
Oh man!
What's interesting about that is with Cesaro, and I know we already done flipped over and went to a whole other topic here, but with Cesaro, I would have never known he had the ability that he had. Like, I know how his strength is,
right.
But I would never think that he could even be on the same level with Ricochet with all the flipping and until I seen this. I mean, his craft is amazing. I mean, his level to me just went up even more notches. It's a shame that they haven't really elevated him, just knowing that he's even able to do that.
Well, that's the reason why you saw for that stint of time when they had the Cesaro section and things like that, because he had the following. People knew that he could do that, but they suppressed it and just made him more of a power wrestler. And so these matches that we were privy to with him wrestling Ricochet was just phenomenal stuff. You could watch that for a best of 7 series.
Yeah, I agree completely. I would love to see them still, show some sort of faith in Cesaro and actually do something with him. I've been a fan of the guy ever since his days in ROH when he was teaming with Chris Hero. But I think that he is grossly underused. But again, that's my opinion. Dare I say that's a pretty popular opinion among a lot of people. But I would love to see him, run with a main title of either Raw or SmackDown, probably SmackDown, for just give him 6 months with it. Give him 6 months with the title.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
Let me ask you this: do you put him with a manager?
Yes.
because he can't really. I mean, after the incident that happened with his teeth, he can't really facilitate, right?
Right.
So, who then? That's. I mean.
the
You
thing
guys
is,
are irritating Matt Michaels. Let
All
Matt,
right,
No, you're not irritating.
Oh, okay.
It's just, you're asking about a manager. Well, there's no fucking managers out there.
That's
right
true.
now. They don't have-
managers aren't a thing.
Yeah, he only got one,
Yeah.
and he's got the biggest client. But Matt Michaels, who do you think you could strap a rocket to right now?
Who do you think first? I mean,
You know what? I'd go Ricochet too, because even though he does a lot of the flippy shit, as people will say, and the old timers are not a fan of it, you could teach him to kind of slow some of it down so that he extends his career. And then you put him in some great feuds with like a Daniel Bryan and other people that he can work technical stuff with, Cesaro. And I think that he does have, initially, like in the early stages of his career, he didn't have the mic skills, but now he has really grown into having those mic skills and learning how to slow his timing down in those interviews. Because I've watched him, for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I definitely would agree with Sin City Steve that Ricochet is the guy.
And just to echo something, that actual train of thought of making Ricochet kind of slow it down at times, that has worked. Great case in point is Will Ospreay currently in New Japan. He had a terrible reputation for being a guy who would go out there and would take he would fall on his head every single match. And, there were people that were saying, dude, if you keep this up, you are going to die in the ring. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
However, he was gone for a little while because of injury. He came back, and he's adopted, I don't want to say that he's eliminated his aerial tactics, but he's pacing himself a lot better, and he's making those moments mean more. The thing that kind of made me say Ricochet just off of the cuff was because he can do those high flying moves. So if you have somebody that has the capability of doing those things, I'm not saying that he should go out there and use the 630 for his main finisher every single week, because that's going to take some of the allure away from it. I think that you could do a lot of the things that New Japan has kind of fostered with Will Ospreay and apply those same types of things to Ricochet. Not that Ricochet has been injury prone or anything like that. Knock on wood.
Surprisingly, right?
Yeah, he's been remarkably lucky. But at the end of the day, New Japan is already starting to see a little bit of a dividend on that, as Will Ospreay won the Best of the Super Juniors tournament and just recently captured the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. So it's definitely something that can be done by taking an aerial guy and not eliminating the aerial stuff, but just ratcheting it down just a small bit so that when he does those eye-popping moves, that they pop even more.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So I do respect Ricochet as a wrestler, but I think that Ricochet is Rey Mysterio, where he's popular, can sell things, especially to kids, because he's got the smaller build.
Yeah,
they can relate to that, and I think they would like that. But he's not John Cena. He's not Roman Reigns. You want to strap a rocket to someone's back, you got to think, what is the long game? And right now, if you look at some of the talent that's under contract, Velveteen Dream would be someone who possibly you could. However, I don't think they will know what to actually do with them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I just he's got a bigger body and stuff. That's why I say that he would be more of the stereotypical idea, because you can make him a movie star.
Oh,
I mean, he's got
without a doubt.
He's over.
There's one person that I think that could do it, and that is Adam Cole.
Baby.
I think that Adam Cole is everything they want Seth Rollins to be.
Wow.
They have it in him.
Is that right?
Damn,
Okay.
Seth.
All
And
right.
I love Seth. I go back. I watched Seth. You know, we used to get a channel from Pittsburgh on cable that had him at one of the Pittsburgh local wrestling things. And I saw him right away, and I'm like, this guy's going to be a superstar. I thought he was amazing, and he's been great.
Yeah.
But he's missing the one notch that will turn him up to that level. I think Adam Cole has that notch.
Wow. There's a report that, an article that came out like a day or two ago that I read, and it said that Triple H is protecting Adam Cole from going up to the main roster
Yep.
for that exact reason, that they may not know what to do with him once he gets there, and ultimately he will fail, right? And probably be like Moxley, where he just gets so disgruntled with wrestling that he exits, right?
Yep.
I really like that. Cole is somebody that I've watched now for a few years, and I think he is very good. You could even draw comparisons to Shawn Michaels. I mean, granted, they look so much alike.
Yep.
But dude, just the mic work.
That's the thing. Yeah.
The mic work is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then when you move him up to the main roster, you ultimately have to move up the whole Undisputed Era.
Yep.
You already have too many people on the main roster. So I do like the fact that they are still holding him in NXT, and he can have some great feuds. But it is going to come to a point where Triple H can't tell the old man no.
Well,
anymore.
I think what it's going to come down to is if there is not the response that they need for SmackDown's debut, you're going to see basically, now this would be my guess if they're smart enough to do this.
Listen up, Vince.
Yeah, I know. Here we go. But if they really did, figure out a way to bring them all up together,
An invasion.
it's an invasion.
Yeah.
You do an invasion, and you have them. This is the one thing Vince has always did that is, I guess, this is where I think fans get frustrated. And that is everyone says, everyone gets built up, and then he breaks them down right away. Well, the one thing that could be done is that if you had this faction come in and they're just fucking off the rails, they're people that can't be beat for a while, let it organically build so that you are strapping that rocket and you're basically saying these are the new motherfuckers in town. And the transition Roman out. Roman go do the films, because after Fast and Furious now, this
There's
one
gonna be
that's
a
coming
market
out.
for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's gonna be a pretty big star after this.
Well, look, you got, and people. This is the biggest thing right now. People in Hollywood are looking at this from the perspective of, okay, Rock is established. Now you got Cena. Now you got Batista.
Yeah.
See, Batista is a huge one.
He's also doing his solo movie, which
Right.
is, we'll see how that works out.
Right. So Batista is huge because that's someone that opens up a whole nother market because he broke through with the superhero films.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns is built for a superhero type role.
Oh, without question.
Roman Reigns should be Aquaman.
Just
You know what I'm saying? Look
keep
at
him
it.
away from DC. I mean,
Yeah, well, but Warner Brothers couldn't have done a better job of finding a guy who looks exactly like Roman Reigns and going, "We're going to make you Aquaman." You know. So I think that's what it comes down to, is that you internally build these new stars. That's what NXT is for, and you don't use them in terms of breaking them down like Vince likes to do. And you know what? I think it's probably something that when you do something for years and years and years, it becomes a formula that you've seen success with before. So now it is habitual in you to, no matter who the person is, to start them on a trajectory and then fuck them right back down.
Yeah.
And then they have to build the thing back up. What he doesn't realize right now is that he doesn't need to do that because he's got NXT. He's already built these guys from nothing.
Yeah.
Now the fans want them to come in and start being the ones who are getting highlighted and taking over.
Definitely.
So we'll see if Hunter, you know what, if Hunter gets a little more sway, if the XFL really does take Vince's attention a little bit away, they're going to have to have other eyes, and hopefully those other eyes see the different avenues. So.
Awesome.
All right. Man, great stuff, guys. Y'all did your homework and then did a little extra credit, too. I like that. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Professor.
So
Professor X, if you will.
Professor Impact.
So we're about to start our interview with Luke and PJ Hawx as part of our Father's Day weekend special. And when we finish that interview, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Jim Cornette controversy for the second time. We're going to end it this time. If you heard our show last week, you know, we got some feedback on it and we got a chance to listen to his podcast. I guess it would be last week as him responding on that. And so now we have a couple of things in our minds that we are going to let you know what we think. So we'll be right back in just a moment.
Hey guys, you have an opportunity of your lifetime. Starting June 7th in New York at HOG, House of Glory, we will be having a tryout for Wrestle One Dojo with the president of Wrestle One, Kaz Hayashi, will be in town. We'll be doing a tryout, looking for a new face, new somebody, and guess what we're going to give away? We're going to give away a 1 week tryout, or 1 week actually camp stay in Tokyo, Japan. We'll be picking up to 2 guys for each camp. We'll start in HOG, House of Glory, and then we'll be going on to One Fall Wrestling Factory down in Atlanta. We'll be going to Texas, Kansas City, Oakland, California at Hood Slam, and we're going to finishing up on 15th at Inoki Dojo in LA. So look at what's coming up. You can find me on a Facebook. There's a link to it, and it's a Wrestle 1A Alliance. And if you have any dream of going to Japan, living, eating, and training at the Wrestle One Dojo, here's your chance. So hope to see you at one of those 6 places all over the United States, and live your dream, brother. See you there.
Meltzer is a journalist.
Well, we're just the entertainment.
You're listening to Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. On our phone call today, we have a good one. Someone who has been in the Continental Wrestling Federation, the Maryland Championship Wrestling, Wildcat Pro Wrestling, Extreme Pro Wrestling, and even going to be in an upcoming show, June 29th, Bumps and Bruises. We have Luke Hawx, and his son is on the phone, PJ. Let's give them some love.
Yeah, y'all said it's Father's Day, right? It's Father's Day episode, so how much better than to have the father-son tag team on?
That's right.
Hawx Aerie.
Absolutely. What you got, Simon?
What's happening, fellas?
So I
got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question for y'all before y'all kick off.
Okay.
Yeah.
What makes y'all the bad boys? What's up with that? What makes y'all the bad boys?
Can we give them that information?
I mean, I can give them that information.
Go ahead, then.
Well, I can tell you why we the bad boys, because, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that swear they bad, and there's a lot of people that talk the big talk, but we walk the walk. We give 2 shits, and we always got our hand in the bag, and we always got 0 fucks to give. But we got a lot of love for everybody. And so that's why we
That's
decided to
what's up.
come up with Vegas Bad Boys a podcast.
Awesome.
There we go.
So in that, real quick, we're gonna kick this off because a lot of people have Meltzer. All right, we don't have Meltzer. We have somebody named Raven. And he's the one that just out of nowhere calls us and lets us know the 411. So, with that in mind, I'm going to ask you a question that he sent over. And I'm going to start off real, just total left field. So, my first question to y'all, father and son, and I've never asked this question before, but Raven told me to ask it. They want to know, what is your favorite porn star?
Favorite what star?
Porn star. That's exactly
Porn
what.
star.
Yep.
Oh man, we Catholic. We don't watch stuff like that.
I'm a child of God, man.
No.
we don't.
See?
Look
See?
at that.
There you are.
We're gonna have to send a letter to Raven because this is the exact question he told me to ask. You
Right.
know, I mean, I'm just following instructions.
Oh, that's funny.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I used to watch that stuff back in the day before I got reformed.
Mm-hmm.
And Trina Michaels was always a good friend of mine. I always loved Trina. So
Okay.
she managed me many times. That's where you're getting to. But I love Trina. So big shout out to Trina. But nowadays we don't watch that kind of stuff. I'm more like to watch who's that guy that hits people with the jacket to make them fall down and blesses them? I don't know his name.
They got a couple of them though, but
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So just really quick then, let's just go in the exact opposite direction then. The altar boy character. Who created that, and were you ever an altar boy yourself?
Nah. That was XPW's doing. When I was in XPW, they needed a tag team last minute, and they had this idea, and they wanted to do this thing called the Altar Boys. It was supposed to be Messiah's original gimmick, but he didn't want to do it. So they did the Messiah thing with him. And when I was there for a show, I was Vic Grimes' student. They called Vic up and said, "Hey, we want to put your student in on one of our shows with this other kid we got up here and call them the Altar Boys."
Oh, okay.
I didn't know the first thing about being an altar boy, so I just didn't grow up in a religious family.
Sure.
My family, my mom was a drug addict. My dad didn't want nothing to do with me. Everybody, I've told this story many times. So I grew up in the streets. So, there was no church, there was no rules, there was no regulations, no sympathy anywhere around me. So I had no experience with that field, so that was kind of tough for me to do. Only thing I knew was, those characters are where people would touch guys or women and make them fall down and they'd be healed. Like the crazy stuff you see on TV.
Yeah.
So that was like the really only thing I knew that I could kind of put into my character. So that's what I would do at first. If you see, I would walk around the ring and bless people and touch them on the head and like try, getting that little nudge to fall down.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it was a cool character. It would have been really cool if I would have been able to tie it in with promos more. And I should have. Back then, I wasn't as much of a workhorse as I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to do cool stuff. I wanted to do the spots, and I wanted to do the stuff that anybody could do. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't as big on psychology. And I was just starting to really learn about the psychology and stuff like that. So I didn't put much into the character. I put much more into the matches. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to redo that, I would probably go back and try and put a lot more into the character as well as into the match. Not just worry about the match stuff, put more stuff into my character, try and get the character over more. Because I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have that experience as a religious person to be able to tie it into the character with my promos and things like that nature. So I think characters are big, especially nowadays. A lot of people lack character. If you go to watch wrestling, you see 1,000 James Smiths on the show. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, well, what are you? Okay, I'm a wrestler. Okay, great. What are you doing to get over? Nothing. So I think we need to bring back some characters.
Got you. I got you. So as we were having discussion before the show really started, we talking about, you're in the airport, you're going through this hectic, crazy schedule. What's your thoughts as far as like the airport experience, with regards to like the prices of food? I mean, like, what's your take on that?
Y'all read my tweets, huh? Yeah, Brian,
We do our homework.
It's BS, man. Because look, you go buy a bottle of water for $1, $2 at the store. You go to an airport and a bottle of water is $4. I mean, that's just like $4 or $5. It's a ripoff, bro. And I don't. Man, that's one thing. The government has ties in on this because I don't know what kind of percentage they get from airport sales, but obviously, the government's involved with the airports. So I think it's. I'm like the same thing with football games, bro. You shouldn't have to go to a football game or baseball game and pay I don't drink beer. So you shouldn't have to go there and pay $8 to $10 to $12 for a beer. I mean, you go to LA, you go to a Dodgers game. What's the beer out there? $20?
Probably.
So, that's what I'm saying. So that's just crazy, man. That's the kind of things that should be illegal. That's like you can't price gouge gas. They get in trouble if you're in a crisis situation, and like down here we got hurricanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say gas is $2.50 a gallon. Now, just because it's in high demand, you can't jump the price up to $5 a gallon because you might not get any gas in, and you got to make money or whatever. The government has a ban on that. So, and then they actually did it, and, gas stations got in trouble. I think it should be the same way with the airports, man. You shouldn't be able to price gouge just because, people need those things while you're at the airport. Oh, well, they're thirsty. They ain't got nowhere else to buy it, so they're going to buy it here, and they're going to spend $5 on it. That's BS.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That makes sense because I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't paying for none of that. When I go to the airport, I'm pre-gaming everything. Pre-gaming snacks. I'm pre-gaming soda. I'm pre-gaming water.
No, exactly. You know what I mean? It's hard enough on people nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And, traveling really is a privilege. It's when you do it as a job, and with wrestling, it's a job. And it's tough. And people don't understand it. They think you're just traveling for fun and you're relaxing and you're on vacation 24/7. It's quite the opposite. So you're trying to save money, right? Because you don't want to spend a lot of money on the road. You got to get rental cars, use the gas, this, that. So, they make it difficult. Now, imagine if you're a family who works a regular job, who doesn't make a lot of money, a middle-class family, you want to take your family on vacation, you're going to Disney World, you're going wherever you want to go, You flying out, you go through the airport, you got to feed your family. Why do you have to pay so much more per meal to feed your family going through the airport when you're already traveling, spending the money flying, going to spend vacation money wherever else? They make it tough on Americans. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. It's like if they price gouge as much in those airports, but I think it's one of the things that actually make people crazy, man. It's just like we're all here putting in our work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's asking for anything for free. But at the same time, we don't need to be screwing over each other.
I agree with that 100%. 100%.
So with that being
said,
said,
I mean, look, everybody needs a break, right? And you want to be able to have those opportunities, take your kids places, or maybe go off on a vacation with your girlfriend. People work hard; they want to spend their money, they want to spend time, but they want to do it on things they want to do. They don't want to go broke buying things they have to buy to survive. And you got to eat, you got to drink, right?
Yep.
Well, with that being said, PJ, what is your favorite memory of growing up and taking a vacation with the family?
It's a good question. Well, they're all different experiences because I'd go on some of my dad, some of my mom. They split when I was younger. But at least 5 memories of my dad. Kind of vacation for me would be just going on the weekends with him. And I remember going to the Landmark Arena a lot with him in Georgia. And he wrestled for Lost, I believe it was at the time. But I'd go with him a lot, and I just remember being a kid. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and seeing all the tours come out and watch my dad wrestle. He was like a hero to me. So that was always a cool memory for me. Besides that Disney World, it was a different kind of vacation for me on the weekend.
Yeah, for me, he went to wrestling with me, and then like his mom and them were taking to like France and Colombia and Disney World. Just, I had indie wrestling money, so I wasn't going anywhere except for indie wrestling shows.
PJ, when you were doing like those kind of trips and seeing him larger than life, is that what kind of got you influenced in wanting to do, become a wrestler? Was it the larger than life experience and seeing these essentially superheroes to, a 4 or 5 year old who, must have been just like, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen?
I think it played a big part in it. Yeah, I always enjoyed watching it when I was younger. My dad, when we were home, watched it together. He put it on TV, and I always enjoyed watching, whenever WWE or any of the kind of stuff he put on for me. But being with him and just going around was just really cool. I loved traveling when I was a kid anyways, but just seeing him wrestle in front of the crowd, and it was a fun experience. And it was different. It wasn't, like you guys said, it wasn't a normal experience, so it definitely piqued my interest. And as I got older, I've always wanted to do it since I was a little kid, but I just wanted to work to it, and now I'm finally here. So, but yeah, it made a big difference.
Luke, did you know? Did you have any sense that he showed the interest, as a kid, or was it just one of these things?
Yeah, I mean, he always said he wanted to be a doctor and other things, but he always had a real heavy interest in wrestling. And his mom and them would kind of put in his head, no, don't be a wrestler. You need to be something like a real job and be, get money that way. But his passion was always wrestling. I mean, he would always draw pictures of wrestling and talk about wrestling, and just everything kind of involved around him and wrestling. So it led to that. But I didn't want to force him into it because he wasn't very athletic growing up. He didn't want to play sports, and he didn't want to do I was in the streets my whole life.
Right.
I was climbing trees. I was jumping on people's houses and shit, running through people's backyards and doing all kinds of stuff I shouldn't have been doing. You know what I mean? Just like wild shit. So, so he, he wasn't wild at all. Like, he was video games, television, computer, and then when he got to high school, that switch flipped, and he went and joined the wrestling team, and at first it was like I didn't think he was going to make it because he wasn't athletic and he didn't do any kind of involvement. By the time I was his age, I'd been in 1,000 fights already, and he ain't never been in a fight in his life at that point.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, because wrestlers got to be tough. You got to go out there to rip people apart. And I'm talking about amateur wrestling before pro wrestling. So, I didn't know if he had it in him to go out there and just tear a guy apart, and he did. So he went out there and, shortly after became the captain of his wrestling team. And, I mean, he could tell you the rest from there. And he had a stellar record and, won a couple state championships and did some crazy things, which was cool for me.
That's amazing. I mean, I know, when I did wrestling myself as, a kid, and you do the tournaments and stuff, one of the coolest things was having your family, your dad there, your mom there. And it was, and it without saying it, it's encouragement that, you don't realize as a kid that is really that sense of love, because you just kind of figure, well, they're my parents, they should be there. You don't put a lot of stock into your parents. And here you go, and you guys are now starting to tag team. That is remarkable. Is it different for you, Luke, having your son now as the road partner as opposed to other guys? And
nah, it's better for me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and how does it stack up against some of those other boys? And who was the worst out of the boys?
Man, I'd have to sit back and think on that one. But it's better for me just because I get to spend time with him and we get to do something we're both passionate about. And, I don't have to drive anymore. I can go to sleep while he drives.
You can trust him, too.
I did it today. So, normally I've always been like the driver. No matter who I'm with and who I'm riding with, even in California, I was always kind of like the driver, whatever clique we went to. But, I mean, I enjoy driving. So, and I drive to get to where I'm going. I don't BS around when I'm behind the wheel. I'm pedal to the metal, in and out the lanes. I don't know if y'all noticed or not, but I was in Fast and Furious, so there's a reason for that. So, I mean, I'm a driver, so that's what I enjoy doing. But it's cool now too. It's like I said, the best thing about it right now for me is to travel with him and hang out with him and spend time with him, and just even if we ain't doing anything crazy, we just spend the time. It's no different than a kid coming home and sitting on the couch with his parents and watching TV. So we didn't really have the chance to do a lot of that growing up. So now this is kind of that point where, and we're on the same page where he's older and he'll be 21 in a couple months, and we can go do things together. We don't, he doesn't party, he doesn't drink anything. I drink a little bit, but it's to that point to where we can actually hang out and go do things though, and there's no real restrictions on what we can do or where we can go.
Right.
When you're a kid, like if we were going to an after party, maybe he wouldn't be able to go, but we want to go hang out with the rest of the wrestlers, and I'd be like, I either got to bring him home or I can't go. So, now it's at the point to where there's no really reason to have that separation unless we have to do something business-wise or there's something that's important where we need to have the separation. But it's cool to be able to have that bond and that connection and never have to really leave each other's side.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's quite amazing too, because I have a young son. Although he's 6, those are opportunities, that we kind of share now, but obviously on a scale. But as we get older, that's what I hope to be able to have. Exactly what you're saying is being able to, bond with your son, and through an important part of his life is starting a young adult, getting into his 20s, getting up there and whatnot. So it's a good opportunity for you to actually undertake that. So I'm kind of looking at that as well. One question I do want to ask you, a little bit away from your father and son bond, is I noticed, like, with your name, and there's a lot of people, in this industry and just in general that have the name. And I want to know, what was your take on some of those people? I'm just going to name off a few, and you tell me what you think. You got, like, right, Luke Gallows, Luke Perry, Luke Harper, 2 Live Crew, Uncle Luke, and then Luke Skywalker. What is your take on other people named Luke in comparison to why you named Luke?
I didn't choose the name, so it was given to me. So my real name's Oren. But by the way, Uncle Luke's my favorite out of those.
Mine too.
So it doesn't. And there's a lot of things stolen in wrestling, and there's a lot of people with not original. I did it when I first started. I didn't have an original name when I very first started, so I didn't have that creative mind where I was thinking of different characters. You kind of idolize yourself after somebody, and you want to be somebody else instead of wanting to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as time kind of went by, I wanted to be myself. I didn't want to be somebody else. I didn't want to do what somebody else did. I wanted to be different. I wanted to stand out. And but as a kid, because at first you're a kid and you're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be your heroes, and you want to be relatable to your heroes, and you want to like your heroes. But they tell you, don't meet your heroes because you're probably going to be disappointed, right?
Yeah.
That happened a few times in my case, and people know those stories. I've told those stories many times. But it became to where I wanted to stand out, and I wanted to stand on my own. So, like the Altar Boy Luke thing, like I already had a name with Luke. So I was like, man, how can I transfer? When I wanted to stop doing the Altar Boy character, I had to figure out how I could transfer over. And Rob Feinstein, and I already had Hawx, like I was thinking Hawx, but Rob Feinstein and Doug Gentry, who worked at Ring of Honor at the time, I was always cool with them. So Doug was like, man, they were running a show, and it wasn't a Ring of Honor show. It was another, I forget what show it was. It was actually one of the Atlas security guards. They were running the show, and Robin was helping. So Doug said, man, why don't you just use your last name? And I was like, man, I've been thinking about that. You think it's cool? You could do. I think it's badass. So I was like, all right, from this point on, I'm going to be called Hawx. So I'll just be Luke Hawx and then start running with that. And that's what happened.
Very cool.
I like that. Yeah, also, too, I was told by our Raven source that you had a friendship with Paul Bearer, and there's a story behind a nickname that kind of ties into your to your birth name. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. My birth name is Oren, but there's no real story. He just used to call me Orkin.
Mm-hmm.
So, the thing is, I was real close with him. I was one of the guys coming up out the South when there wasn't a lot of guys coming out of here.
Right.
And when I was a kid, I was hanging out with all the wrestlers, like a teenager, and they seen promise in me. Like the top guys seen promise in me. They were always very nice to me, but and they would always kind of have me around. But the indie guys who weren't like properly trained and were douchebags, they sucked, and they just kind of treated me like crap, and they would always try and hold me down. But Paul Bear was one of the ones who was like always real good to me, and he liked my attitude because I had a chip on my shoulder. I was a badass. And I don't mean like a badass like breaking in people's cars. I was always in fights, and I always spoke my mind, and I always, so he's seen like that I had something in me. Plus, whenever I got in a ring, I wasn't afraid to go after anything.
Right.
So like I go through these issues where like, I lived with my son's mom and her parents, and they were Spanish and very strict, and it was really weird because like they took me in because I got their daughter pregnant in high school and all these things that shouldn't be done because I was like I said I was rough around the edges, and
right.
She was an honor student and like really good in school and never going out, never doing these things, and I didn't have a place to live. I grew up in a boys' home, got adopted and all that stuff. So they took me in once I got her pregnant. So, and imagine me being 16 years old, right? And this is before cell phones. So they'd have one house phone, and it was in the kitchen. And like Paul Bear would call my house in the middle of the night, and my mother-in-law, who barely spoke English, would answer the phone, and he'd be like going, "Oh yeah," to the phone like, "Bruh." And she would come in my room and wake me up and like be threatening to kick me out the house, and it would cause a big old ordeal. And I'm thinking, man, I can't tell this guy to stop calling my house because I'll never get a shot at WWE if I do that. But at the same time, I don't want to get kicked out the house, because she's waking up at like 6 in the morning to go to work, and he's calling at like 3 in the morning while they on the road when he's in the car with Undertaker and shit, and calling to mess with me. So I mean, like, how cool of an experience is that for a guy, like my age at the time, who's just a big, wrestling fan, not really involved, hanging out with the guys, but trying to get involved and waiting for my moment in time to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
But, this guy is managing the heavyweight champion at the world at the moment. And he's calling, my house just to mess with me. And, they always treated me good. And they always, they hazed me. They hazed me a lot back then, but not in a bad way, in a good way. They
Right.
always made sure to keep me around and, showed me the ropes. And it's cool. I'm really glad I got to come up when I did, because nowadays wrestling's completely different.
Right.
And it's full of freaking vaginas. And it's full of, I'm serious, bro. It's full of vaginas, bro. These dudes can't, they can't fight. They get stiffed in the ring. They want to call the police and some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like some shit that don't even make sense. Like it's just, and these guys aren't trained properly. And they're sitting there and they'll get on Facebook and they'll become friends with somebody on Facebook or social media. So then if something they don't like happens, they'll go bitch about it on Facebook, and then somebody who has no idea about the business, but they think this guy's a nice guy, like, oh, that's wrong. They shouldn't do that to you. Well, we need to do something about that. And it's just like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, neither one of you know your head from your asshole when it comes to wrestling.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we live in a world to where a Twitter battle is actually a formality of fighting. I'm originally from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I grew up in New Orleans, and I remember I had to learn how to fight by getting my ass kicked until I learned how to fight. And now and now it's just weird, because it's like, if you got beef with somebody, we going on a Twitter battle? And that's a real thing.
And they try and look, they want to take people's jobs. They want, this guy thinks like this. He supports President Trump. He should be fired. He should be, this guy, like, what? Like, I remember seeing a post the other day on Facebook, and somebody posted a picture of a woman had posted Trump 2020. So another guy screenshotted it and screenshotted the delete button. And he made a comment about it, and I just said, hell, I said, that's crazy. You deleted a woman for having an opinion,
exactly,
and voting for somebody else other than you vote with. That's crazy, Like you badmouth somebody just because they have a different opinion than yours, or they like somebody different than you. So it's just, it's a social justice warrior bullshit.
Yeah, I hear you on that one, man. Sometimes I feel a little alone sometimes when I be talking to some folks.
So true.
Well, with that, I mean, PJ, what has your experience been like in terms of, your training now and your upbringing around the business, I hope that you don't feel like a vagina.
Hey, bro, this dude's trucking dude, bro.
I would say younger me was more on the lines of that, but once I got into amateur wrestling, I just became kind of a different person out my shell. I just became a lot tougher because I knew that's what I needed to do for wrestling. Anyways, I saw my dad and the stuff he went through in wrestling, and like I said earlier, I think his experience definitely helped me out a lot. But just I saw what he had to go through, and I'm like, well, if I want to become a wrestler, I need to get tough because these guys, I know they're big people, they're strong, stuff like that. There's a lot of people that hit hard. I'm not gonna back down because they're hitting me hard. So I need to train and get strong myself so I can take care of myself. And he teaches me a lot of the old values and what he had to go through. So right. I personally didn't have to go through what he did, of course, but I know what he did, so I respect it a lot more compared to other people. And I understand it. So
yeah, he grew up around it. These other kids, they don't understand anything. They just think if you got them, you're an asshole. When they feel they're ready to wrestle and they're the best, and if you ain't putting them in the spotlight, you're holding them back, and it's just a bunch of crap. Perry knows, PJ knows it because he's been around it his whole life. He's seen everything. He's seen how the business has changed and how it's shifted in different directions several times. Because I obviously it's going through different stages. And then right now, the dude is a machine. He's a machine when it comes to training. There's a lot of guys that don't want to train with him because of how hard he trains.
Right.
But that's
sure.
And that's typical because these guys want handouts. They want to just do the bare minimal but get the maximum reward, and that's not how life works with anything. And it doesn't work like that with any job.
But that's just it. We talked about a lot of how you get knocked down, you get back up. Do you see what I'm saying? Because your passion is what fuels you to get back up, to get back and start grinding. A lot of, my opinion of why a lot of this younger generation, not all of them, but big enough, is they're so used to stuff easily materialized. And a lot of that has to do with social media. It has to do with just the convergence of technology. So they're always used to boop, bap, boop, done, it's there. But they don't realize the man hours, the people, the blood, sweat, and tears, and them being away from their family so that they could go boop, bap, bap, there you go. So, I totally understand what you're saying, and it's good to hear your son. Obviously, he comes from good stock like his father, but is able to see that, I got to get tough. And it's not probably just the tough muscle-wise, but tough mentally to be able to get into this industry and realize I got to work for every damn step I got. Is that right. is that really how it is? You know what I'm saying? So, it's good to hear that.
I agree, and I learned that mentality from high school wrestling because I knew if I wanted to win, if I wanted to wrestle off the spot, I had to beat the guy that was in front of me. And same thing from tournaments or anything I wanted to win. I knew I could. They're not just going to lay down and let me pin them. So I knew that I had to put in the work and all the countless hours. Do my push-ups at home, work out when I'm tired, and do my homework, and go run and just go train, get the better drilling partner because I knew I was going to get better if I was just lazy or if I only people that didn't want to get better. I had to push myself and be with those guys who wanted to get better, get stronger, and that's it with life in general. Like you said with wrestling, if you want it, you have to go for it. If you don't, you're never going to get anywhere.
And you got to he used to wrestle the top guys that would kick his ass, and he would continue wrestling and practice with those guys because they would school him, and then he'd keep doing it until eventually he could either keep up with them or beat them. That was his goal always. It was like, man, I got to beat this guy. I got to beat this guy. I got to beat my coach. I got to beat this senior that's on the team that's been here for. So, and that's the training attitude you got to have.
Right.
You got to go after the top of the list, and you got to put the work in.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of training and putting the work in, you were trained by one of my favorites at the time, and that is Vic Grimes, who I think is grossly underappreciated nowadays. You don't
very much so. Probably the average person probably doesn't know who he is, unfortunately.
Yep, exactly.
But, he was one of the best big guys the sport ever seen.
I agree with that.
As far as his ability and the things he's done in the sport, it's crazy.
And with that, you you were, I mean, I was at the first XPW show. That's how far back I go back in Los Angeles, with, you know, seeing the rise of that, you know, that federation. But speaking of tough guys and someone you had a wonderful match with that involved, you know, light bulbs and all that good shit is Supreme. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to wrestle a guy like that, who's one of the toughest son of a bitches that I've ever been around.
It was intimidating as hell. I remember being super intimidating. Not that I was scared, because, you know, dude, I would fight a tank if it came down to it back then. Like I said, that's how big the chip on my shoulder was. But I knew I had no experience in death matches. And then, you know, you throw in the light tubes and the bed of nails and the thumbtacks and the, you know, the big mouse traps, the big thick mouse traps.
Yeah.
You know, that stuff hurts. Like, it's not, you know, it's not a joke. It's not a gimmick. So,
yeah.
Being a skinny kid and, you know, getting in a fist fight is different, because you can knock somebody out. You know, I was always, like I said, I wasn't afraid to fight anybody, because my goal was to lay people out. That's all I ever did. And when you go into a different style where you're in a wrestling match and you have to take these physical moves and you have to get thrown into this and do this, and you know you're setting yourself up for pain, you just have to be a tough son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And to be honest, nowadays, me looking back, it's really stupid. Me and you know, PJ were talking about that earlier on the ride home. It was really stupid, but it was kind of a necessity at the time, because that was what was blowing up.
Yeah.
And everything hadn't been done yet.
Yep.
Everybody was trying to top each other. So back then, you know, I was like trying to put in psychology into death matches.
Right.
And trying to throw in cool wrestling moves into death matches, because, you know, most of the death matches back then were just stupid spots where they would just hit each other and stuff.
Right.
I wanted to mix wrestling into it. And, you know, thankfully I was able to do that with Supreme, and Supreme gave me a lot of freedom and opportunity to be myself and you know, create my ideas into those matches. And I'll always be thankful for that, because, you know, back then Supreme was just mauling guys.
Yeah.
You know, he was going out and laying guys out for real.
Yeah.
So, you know, he could have told me to piss off, and he could have just, you know, we could have just went at it. And he didn't do that. He let me have some creative control. He listened to my, you know, my psychology as far as putting matches together and trying to do the right, you know, the things that I wanted to do. And so that was cool for me. But, you know, I look back, I said, like, a lot of things I did was dumb, man, because I was like, look at it today. Now it's been so overdone. A lot of the stuff I've done, you don't even see videos from. You see,
right,
you know, other stuff. Like it's just, it's cool to go back and show people, hey, look, I used to do this. But at the same time, when we were doing it to be immortalized, right? So to be on there forever, and people would go, oh, my God, this is so crazy. Now people, I mean, look at the bump Joey Janela took from Zandig.
Yeah.
I would never do something like that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it just, eventually it gets topped.
Yeah.
And so it's like kind of looking back on, man, why did I do it? You know what I mean? Like but I was hungry, and I wanted to be immortalized, and I wanted to do something else nobody ever done. That's why I was doing 450s off the balcony at the ECW arena. You know, it's crazy.
So almost with that as well, you mentioned, you know, you do something to get immortalized, and you notice it's going to get topped. At what point do we get to the top where we've topped what can be topped? What would you say, in your words, is next? Do we scale back? Do we try something different?
You know what I think now? I think a lot of guys can't tell good stories in matches. I think it's a lot of high spots and a lot of fancy moves, and I think if you can get back to where guys know what they're doing as far as telling stories and psychologies and making things make sense in matches, that's where the money is.
Right.
And that's what I'm always trying to do with my match. I always want to be realistic. I always want to be hard-hitting. I always want to look intimidating and you know, be myself. But I always want to really tell a story. That's what's most important for me.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing, and I think a lot of the video game culture has, you know, made it into, you know, high spots being the quick pop, but just because you're athletic and you can do that doesn't mean that you're actually conveying the story and what's going on. And I think that's very important that you guys are,
right,
doing that.
It's amazing to me. Like I'm not taking a shot at these guys because I respect them, but it's amazing to me. Like Jack Evans and Ricochet have been around so long.
Yeah,
and Jack a lot longer because they do some dangerous stuff. Like if you look at the stuff when Jack did that double flip off the top of the cage and landed on the floor.
Yeah, no joke.
They missed him, bro. Like he landed on the floor from the top of the cage. The risk factor and something like that is so crazy. And I'm like, these are good guys. Jack's a great guy. So I'm like, man, how long can your career be? And I mean, he's been around probably almost as long as I have, or a little bit shorter maybe. I've been wrestling. This year's 20 years. 2019, 20 years for me.
Yeah, and I think Jack's on about 17. So you're right. It's to still go out there and do that. I think, and this is something that I asked Dreamer recently, and that was, Dreamer's just a few years older than I am, and I said, brother, when are you thinking about stopping? And he said, when my body says I can't do it anymore. And it's I get it, because I get the, having been in the ring and having, been a performer and all these different aspects, I get the attraction. But at the same time, one of the first things I learned about myself is physically, I couldn't do it as a profession because my body wouldn't, hold up. I knew I'd be in big trouble 5 years, down the road. How are you finding it? Is it that you're taking care of yourself better, and we got a little bit of that going on in society now, and B, is it because you're working smarter now that you've gotten older?
Well, both, but I've never got into like drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. So
I didn't live this hard life. You know what I mean? Like but my body's banged up from all the stunts and all the wrestling and all the powerlifting.
Right.
So I'm definitely in a lot of pain a lot, but stuff I can work through or I figure out how to work around. And guys who give me inspiration are guys like Stevie Richards and Bob Holly and Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
That are they're all good friends of mine, but they're also Bob's 56, 57s. Billy Gunn's up there. Stevie's 47, 48, I think.
Yeah.
They're all in great shape. They're probably in better shape they've ever been in their life. And they're still going strong. And these guys have obviously wrestled a lot more than I have because they were on the road 300 days a year.
Right.
I never had that opportunity to where I was just doing indie shows. So I was just really wrestling on the weekends. But these guys, they were on the road a ton, and they still, they're still in pain. Don't get me wrong. They're, and I've had these times where my back's locked up or this or that happens. The same with them, where they're having trouble, so they got to make some different arrangements during their matches because they might not be able to do something. But eventually you fix it and you go back to being as close to 100% as you can.
Right.
So I think it's just really a matter of taking care of your body and, staying active and being in the gym and being physical helps as well.
So speaking of Bob Holly, I mean, tough as fucking nails. I mean, ever since I can remember. 100%. Tell us about. Oh yeah, tell us about the Chop Fest with Bob Holly and Cody Hall.
Yeah, we just had a little fun. You know what I mean?
Just a little fun.
Real hard, bro. I swing the hammer too, so we had a little fun with that, and I was like, man, this would be pretty sick. There, I seen Cody post a video the other day where he posted he chopped some dude against the side of the ring and it sounded like a gunshot went off, bro. And if you go on Cody Hall's Instagram, bro, you'll see it. He damn near put a hole in the dude's chest.
Wow.
So
and Cody's a big dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Cody in person. Cody's a big boy with some big old bear paws.
So he left this dude's chest. He left the dude's chest looking like Daniel Bryan's chest, like all just raw meat.
Bro, Cody's about 6'10" or so, and his hands look like Shaq's hands, bro. So,
damn.
I mean, obviously they're white, So they don't really look like Shaq, but like
The size.
Yeah.
God damn.
Uh,
Well, you know what they say.
Yeah.
You ain't really a man until you take a chop.
yes, no, I guess. Is it that?
PJ, what I know one of the speaking of chops, one of the best experiences is getting in and taking those first chops. Who was the first one to give it? Was it Dad who gave you your first chop?
I couldn't remember. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
It definitely wasn't me. I gave him thinking. I gave his first ass whooping.
Yeah.
That's the Father's Day spirit right there.
Right.
But first day, I probably just experienced it through my dad. When I see him, he's a hard hitter with the chops, man. So I just try to exemplify mine like his. But I probably felt him and Bob Holly had a match. I want to say 08, 09. Just chops he took from there. I felt them from him. So I mean, I didn't take them, but I knew my dad. Like they're hard chops. So.
Yeah, me and Bob used to go at it back in the day. So Bob is another one from the area who looked after me because of he seen something in me coming up when this area was full of vaginas. I was the one who was fighting again and going at it. So Bob liked that attitude because Bob was tough, and me and Bob became buddies because me and Bob went at it. We were backstage at a show. And then in Mobile, and Bob walked past me and he said something to me, because he would kind of like, he'd bowl his way around the locker room, not in a bad way, just like, because to be honest, bro, there's a lot of people back there that shouldn't be back there,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and about a lot of people calling themselves wrestlers who shouldn't be wrestlers. So when Bob was around, they'd be all walking on eggshells, but they would still kind of be in the way of something. So Bob would be like, he didn't want nothing to do with him. So Bob had walked past me at one point, and he made a remark to me. So I made a remark back to him because I wasn't going to back down. and then he said, "Oh, you think you bad?" And I said, "No, I know I'm bad." You know what I mean? And then he said, "Oh yeah, we're going to see about that." Then he didn't know who I was. So then he went to Paul Bear and he said, they were both with WWE at the time, but they were doing some indie shows in Mobile. Because that was back then when, it wasn't as strict and they could kind of get away with that. Like, they would run their own little thing.
Right.
So then, so he asked Paul to put me in. He asked Paul Bear to put him in the ring with me. So we got in the ring and, he wanted to see, he wanted to kick my ass a little bit and see what I did. So, and I just took him. I told him that's the best you got. You know what I mean? And he was like, damn, you a tough, his exact words were, you're a tough motherfucker. And I was like, yeah. So then, we became buddies, and then next thing you know, we just started working together a lot because Bob wanted to work with me and, thought I had a lot of talent, I was tough, and we could go at it, you know what I mean? Because he wasn't working somebody that would cry when he was a little rough with him, or and I can get a little, I'd get my rough back, and it was just real aggressive in that aggressive style where you liked it, It was
Right.
it wasn't unsafe, you wasn't sitting there punching a guy's teeth down his throat.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like, well, you could just be rugged, and that was fun.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, you mentioned, obviously, we just talked about Bob Holly. Another name that you just threw out there was Billy Gunn. Obviously, Luke, you and PJ are tagging up at Bumps and Bruises. Would there possibly be anything down the road where we might see the two of you against Billy Gunn and Austin, his son?
That'd be cool. We were supposed to do that in Minnesota in March. Yeah, but the show got canceled.
Oh.
And then PJ actually wrestled Austin in his first singles match.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, it was actually a 4-way. It was PJ, Austin, and who else?
Fidel Bravo.
Swade Thompson. Yeah, and Swade Thompson. So they wrestled like a 4-way.
Nice.
And that was Austin's first real singles match. So I think they'll do more together. You know what I mean? It's it'll be good. But like I like wrestling. Like I want to wrestle Ricky and Roy Knight again.
Mm-hmm.
Paige's brother and nephew. Like we have good chemistry, and they're real hard workers. Those dudes are awesome, phenomenal. Obviously, we like working with Bestie and Damien as well too. That's always fun. That's why we did, at Wildcat, we did the first ever international father-son tag match. So where we did me and my son versus Bestie and Damien in Mexico and versus Roy and Ricky in England. So, that was really cool.
That was over WrestleMania weekend, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, what match number was that for you, Perry?
That's my fourth.
That was it's Perry's fourth match, bro.
Wow. Very cool, man.
So you got to see him now, you know what I mean? Like, I'd really like to do it now where he has so much experience on this stuff. Because, like, he spent the whole last summer in England on the camps.
Damn.
So this guy, PJ's already getting around. He's doing England. He's done, several, all around the country. Mexico.
A month ago.
Yeah, we went to Mexico and wrestled last month. So we're going back to Mexico in a couple weeks. So he's got a lot of experience under his belt now. And his fifth match was at the Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor. We're wrestling the Motor City Machine Guns and Beer City Bruiser and Brian Malonis.
Nice.
So that was PJ's fifth match. So I'd really like to show off, how much he's doing. And he was good then, but just like he's a lot better now, obviously. The more experience you have, the better you get. So I'd really like to, get those opportunities as well again.
So, kind of looking at all the information on you, whatnot. I mean, you're obviously a Louisiana boy, correct? Or man now. Louisiana man.
Yeah.
So, what part of Louisiana, because I'm from Louisiana as well. I was born there, but I moved out to Vegas when I was 15. What do you miss? What I miss from home is just like boudin and eating, crawfish and stuff like that, or having Zapp's potato chips.
We just got some boudin on the way over here.
Oh, okay. All right. But, like, do you ever get an opportunity to share with people when you're on the road? What's it like coming from Louisiana? Because even though, like I say, I've been removed from Louisiana for the most part, location-wise, since I was 15, I never really have lost sense of home. Every time I come back, it's like I never left, and visit all the family and whatnot. And, do you ever get a chance to share that with people?
Probably not so much. I don't, we talk, but, when they think about Louisiana, they think about Bourbon Street and party, and they think about swamps and alligators. So that's like what they think Louisiana is. There's no kind of in between there. But the food's the best. That's the best thing about Louisiana. And I guess we don't really get to share that too much. Probably something we should. And it's the guys who come here get to do it. Obviously, but a lot of times too is the guys who come here are usually the guys who are like really in shape and maintain themselves well, so they're not going off and cheating and enjoying the food. They're not eating the boudin, which if you get some good boudin, it's phenomenal.
Oh man!
So,
how many links y'all get?
Huh?
How many links do y'all get whenever y'all get them?
Oh, we got the balls. They got this place called Billy's Boudin in Lafayette.
Okay. I got some family in Lafayette. All right.
Yeah, and so we got some crawfish boudin. We got some pepper jack boudin. So it's stuffed with pepper jack cheese. It's fried balls, bro. They're so good.
Sound amazing.
We racked up on them. Yeah, we racked up on them.
So what other type of dishes you and your son enjoy?
Oh, he likes junk food. He likes pizza and
I eat a variety of everything, but I took it cheap since I'm younger. I'm seeing the results a little bit more in my stomach now that I'm, not 15 anymore. The abs aren't there anymore as much as they used to be. But if we're talking about Louisiana dishes, you can't go wrong with beignets and crawfish season's always fun. And I'm just trying to think where else do we go that's local? That's good. I don't know. You eat junk.
Well, I'm over here eating bison burgers and stuff all day, and spinach, and besides my sweets. But I like gumbo. I'm a big fan of a good gumbo.
Okay.
I don't like sandwiches too much. I don't really care for all that bread and stuff, but a good shrimp po' boy.
I was just about to ask you. Yeah.
Love boiled seafood, crabs, crawfish, shrimp. Some good charbroiled oysters too. I don't know if they do that anywhere, but we got charbroiled oysters in a few places here that are really good. I don't like raw oysters, but I'll eat charbroiled oysters.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, those are classic Louisiana dishes. Of course, the boudin. I'm not a big fan of like étouffée and all that stuff, or jambalaya. I never really cared for jambalaya. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, those are my favorites, though.
All right, got you.
We'll throw this out from Travis since we're talking about food. Cupcakes or cookies?
Oh yeah, that's a tough choice. I asked that question on Twitter that day. Cookies, man. I like both. It just depends on the mood. And then, of course, you know, they got crappy versions of each one. So even a crappy version is still a good one, but it disappoints you when they're crappy. You know?
Yeah.
If I got it, I want it to be high quality, like my women.
There you go.
There you go.
So, moving along with that, what's your favorite drink for both of y'all?
Alcohol or a regular drink?
Any drink you want.
Well, that's tough. I mean, sweet tea, of course. I like peach tea.
All right.
I drink a lot of water, but I mean, like sweet tea and peach tea, like a good peach tea for me, like a Snapple peach tea, I really like.
Yeah, honestly, I just drink water pretty much, but I do drink milkshakes. Milkshakes are my weakness.
Oh, there you go.
So where you get your milkshakes from?
Pretty much all I get is sweet. A place called Marble Slab. It's probably my favorite to go.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the main thing. Whenever I'm out somewhere, I'm like, all right, let me watch what I'm eating. You know, I'll cut down. Don't really do sugars or sodas or anything else, just so I can have that milkshake whenever I go travel. I'm like,
yeah, and I don't drink out either. I drink mostly water throughout the day. I barely drink anything. I mean, I'll drink some pure pressed cranberry juice in the morning. Sometimes some little orange juice. Some just health shit, you know.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Definitely. And so Luke,
I like energy drinks now too, like a Red Bull, or a Rockstar, or a Monster.
Yeah.
I enjoy the way they taste, so I like, you know, I usually drink one of those before my match. So
yeah, those are always good.
Every match, I like to have one.
I'm still young, so I don't need that.
Damn. There we go. Shots fired.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Luke, just really quick, we've got a segment that we like to do here. It's word association. It's kind of a rapid fire, and we do it for 70 seconds. So it's called 70 Deadly Seconds. So are you ready?
What are we doing?
So we're gonna do some word association. So I'm gonna name off a name or a promotion, and just tell me the first thing that pops in your mind.
All right.
Cool. So first things first, Vic Grimes.
Awesome.
XPW.
That's my best answer for XPW.
Supreme.
Awesome.
Billy Gunn.
Great shape.
Human Tornado.
Hilarious.
Matt Hardy.
Phenomenal.
Shane Douglas.
Better than he used to be.
Global Force Wrestling.
Something that had potential but never got to be what it should have been.
Stevie Richards.
Most underrated wrestler in the world.
Wildcat.
Most underrated promotion in the world.
Vin Diesel.
I don't know how he got rich.
And last, Hugh Jackman.
Phenomenal, man. It's a great guy to work with. Wonderful guy to work with.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank y'all. It's fun.
Not a problem. We got one more segment to go into before we start closing everything down. So this next segment is what I like to call the oh shit segment. So basically what it is for you and PJ, y'all going to get an opportunity to go ahead, and it could be any type of situation y'all been in, inside the ring, outside the ring, in a grocery store. It doesn't matter where it's at. The whole purpose is to tell a story where you was like, oh shit. Who wants to go first?
All right. Hey, Perry can go first.
Man, can I reverse back to you? I'll reverse back to you. Yeah.
Right now, I won't go into details for like as far as story goes, but I'll since it's a Father's Day episode, the best thing I can tell you is being a father and watching my son wrestle is different for me because I know how much things hurt in the ring. And with him, I'll see things happening. And a lot of times I've had oh shit moments because I don't know if he's like selling or if he's really hurt because I know the damage that things cause. And there's been a couple times where I like really sweat. It's hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if he's safe or not. And, you know, obviously he's tough and he fights through it. I remember one time, actually when he was wrestling Austin, Austin accidentally clipped him and blew out his knee.
Damn.
So, I mean, not bad enough to where, like, he was injured, but he was out for, how long were you out for? A couple weeks? A good month. Yeah, so, and I seen it when it happened, and I seen it in his face, and I seen his reaction, and, you know, and that was, like, in the middle of the match. So, and they still had a ways to go. So, you know, for being a father, it's a big oh shit moment for me because, you know, obviously I want to go out there and I want to stop things and I want to make sure his safety's first, but at the same time I got to let him be a man and be a wrestler and make his own choices, and so that's tough for me.
All right. DJ?
Yeah,
you had enough time to think about one.
It's not a big story, you know what I mean? Like it's not an incident, but I'm just saying that a lot of people don't have that effect because, you know, they're not watching their kid wrestle.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not watching their kid do something dangerous. So, I mean, there's been a lot of times where I'm on something and I'm like, oh, shit, you know, like, well, this is crazy. Am I going to be able to pull this off? But like I said, at the same time, you know, the biggest thing for me is when I watch him and you know, I'm just like, man, you know, you don't want to see your kid in pain. You don't want to see your kid get hurt.
No,
so,
definitely not.
obviously, what we do is very dangerous. Even with amateur wrestling, you know, when he used to get thrown and stuff sometimes, and, you know, they land on their head, it's scary, man. And you see these kids get hurt, you see bones getting broken. So for a parent to watch the kid do something so physical is my oh shit moment.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, he's got his. I got a good story. I kind of saw the gist of it, but probably one of my favorite ones, at least a good snap moment. I won't say that word, but I was wrestling Roy Black in the ECW arena. We had a Wildcat show up there, and it was towards the end of the match, and he goes, and I run at him. He hits me with the clothesline, and he hits me, but his hand bumps onto my face, and it pops me right in my mouth. And I said, kind of like in my head, snap in my head, and then he gets me to the corner. I spit out of my hand, and I have a pile of blood, a good little pool of blood that I spit out my head. I'm like, yeah, you know, like, I guess I'm missing a tooth or something. And we just finished the match, we go in the back, and I wiped the blood all over my face at the end, just kind of show I'm like hardcore and all that stuff. And, you know, everybody's kind of check on me. My dad's worried. I'm like, no, I was fine. I just want to know what happened to my mouth, because I had braces before, so I'm like, that'd be a waste if I, you know. The braces could go to waste, but I just had to get stitches. He had a big old hole in his mouth and a big old, a chunk of skin about the size of a nickel hanging off his lip. You know, it was a fun match. We had a great match. It was a nasty hole in his mouth.
Dang,
man.
He caught Roy's wrist. Roy hit him with his wrist right across his face.
Oh, damn.
And it was, you know, it happens. Yeah. No bad blood. It was just crazy. At the very end too. It's like, of course, you know. But like I said, it was still a really good match, and luckily, you know, my teeth are still intact. So hopefully that continues for several more years.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the stories, man. I mean, talking about getting beat in your mouth and spitting out a whole bunch of blood and some meat. That's definitely snaps.
Yeah, there you go.
How excited are you two about having your Bumps and Bruises match coming up against Super Panda and Eric Watts, which we're going to be there as well? Tell me how excited you are for that event.
Yeah, I mean, Bumps and Bruises is always a good show, so I look forward to it. Perry's first singles match. That was there. It was my second match. Yeah. Well, my first team, that was my second match in my career, so I'm really excited to be back. Tagging with my dad too, it'll be really cool. And I like Watts. I've heard a lot about Panda. Don't know him personally, so I've known him. You know, me and Watts have wrestled several times in the past, so it'd be it'd be good get in there and mix it up with some new guys as well. It's always good to branch out a little bit. So
Yeah.
and I love the LA atmosphere, and we got a lot of stuff in LA coming up. We got our wrestling shows coming up. We have Santino Brothers coming up. We got some Crash shows coming up down in Mexico, and then we have our big show here 2 weeks away, which is X-rated. Our adults only show is 21 and up, June 22nd here in New Orleans. So we're getting prepped for that. You know, we just, like I said, we just had ROW last night in Texas, Reality Wrestling, Booker T's promotion. We're up there regularly. So a lot of things going on, man. A lot of business coming up, a lot of wrestling coming up.
Yeah.
Just to stay healthy, stay active, and obviously when we get out there and get to LA, we'll get to do our other stuff too. I'll be out at Iron Addicts training with CT Fletcher and seeing all the things we can do out there. So yeah, I mean, the Bumps and Bruises is a phenomenal promotion, and they've always given me a good showdown while I was there. And you know, they gave Perry the opportunity to have a second match. It was first singles match was out there, so in Los Angeles, which is cool. So yeah, you know, I love the West Coast. I'm a West Coast boy at heart. You know, I'm a Southern boy, born and raised, but I'm also a West Coast boy at heart. It's one of my favorite places to be in the world. So we'll be out there and we'll tear it up. And looking forward to meeting you guys and seeing everybody out there.
What is the best way for folks to reach both of you on your social media or whatever platforms you use to get information?
Yeah, my Facebook is maxed out, but you know, I always put some cool stuff on there, and you can follow it. And that's just, you know, look up Luke Hawx. You see it's a picture of me and PJ on there. You know, there's a couple fake pages that are made that aren't me. So if you go on Facebook and make the picture of me and him, you'll see I post really regularly on Facebook. And my Instagram is at Luke Hawx 504, LUKEHAWX 504. But also make sure you follow Wildcat Sports. That's WILDKAT, cat with a K. Wildcat Sports. You know, we have a big following on social media with our wrestling promotion here, which is really good. We got some really good wrestlers like Matt Lanty, Jay Spade, guys Buku Dow. You know, some guys that you guys might not get to see regularly because of where y'all at, but we always put out a lot of stuff with these guys. And these guys are super talented. PJ can tell you where to find his stuff at.
Both my Instagram and Twitter are at PJ_HAWX or PJ_Hawx, and Facebook would just be PJ Hawx.
Okay. Awesome.
And don't be sending him any weird messages actually see him in his underwear and shit. Man. I know how to do it on social media.
Just like I said earlier, I'm an exotic guy, so it can't be doing that.
Well, you don't have to worry about nobody from the Vegas Bad Boys sending you no type of crazy shit like that, man. I can't speak for them other females that might listen to the podcast and won't check you out.
Well, it ain't just females, bro. It's both of them. They got some weird motherfuckers out there sending messages. Hey, like what?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Shit. It's a lot of stuff. It's good to read. You know, they should make you laugh. Yeah.
Well, look, we want to just thank you for taking the time, both of you, for coming on our show and talking with us. We absolutely appreciate it. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank y'all. Thanks for having me, bro.
All righty.
Hey there, Matt Michaels here. I just want to let everyone know that the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting are pleased and proud to announce that we will be starting a monthly podcast live at the Boulder Station Hotel and Casino right here in Las Vegas. It's going to be on Monday nights, the last Monday of every month, and our first one is in June, the 24th at 6 p.m. at the Kicks Lounge at Boulder Station Hotel Casino with our special guest, Kenny King. That's right, ROH's own Kenny King and Las Vegas's KING King is going to be with your Vegas Bad Boys at the Boulder Station Hotel and Casino. Now, the show will be us and Kenny talking about his life, his career, things you might have never heard about him. We'll talk a little wrestling, and then at 8 p.m. Pacific time, we'll go right into watching Raw. That's right, WWE Raw watch-along party at Boulder Station Hotel and Casino. You can't get that anywhere else here in Vegas right now, just with us, the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. And guess what? It's
free, open to all ages. And yes, we like to curse a lot, but on this case, we're going to hold it back. So if you want to bring the kids out, please feel free, because it's a family-friendly environment there at Boulder Station Hotel and Casino, and I'm telling you, it's going to be one heck of a good time. So please start spreading the word. Tell your friends, because it's a nice little lounge, and seats are going to fill up quick. You're going to be able to order dinner if you'd like, get some drinks, have a good time, and guess what? During Raw, we'll be handing out prizes. So bulk up a little bit on your WWE trivia, and maybe you might go home with something nice. Boulder Station Hotel and Casino is located at 411 Boulder Highway, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89121. And it is at the Kix Lounge. That's Kixx. And we can't wait to see you. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to get a chance. If you have any questions for Mr. Kenny King, ask him right there live as we record the podcast at Boulder Station Hotel Casino's Kix Lounge on June 24th at 6 p.m. Don't miss it.
Now back to Vegas, bad boys of podcasting.
Yeah, this is the Ultimate Finesser, Chris Bay, and you are listening to the Vegas Bad Boys podcast. And if you ain't listening to it, you whack.
All right, you guys, welcome back. We're going to get right into it. We had our discussion last week about the controversy with Jim Cornette and what he said about Sonny Kiss. And then we had our feedback on the transcript, pretty much, that we had. None of us had got a chance to listen to the actual podcast. Now we have got a chance to listen to not only the remarks he made on the podcast, but his updated podcast on the remarks he made. So I'm going to pass this right over to Sin City Steve, because he was one of the vocal ones on it, our last podcast. So what's your take, man?
Hey, man. So first off, I'd like to give a shout out to people that interacted with us on social media. One in particular, St. Clinton. So shout out to you, man. Definitely appreciate your feedback, and continue that, brother. And definitely, yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you at our live shows. So long story short, if you're not familiar with what happened, obviously Jim Cornette used some very incensed kind of language towards Sonny Kiss. Mm-hmm. And he went on to his podcast and he clarified some things. And on last week's show, I was pretty vocal about it, as you had mentioned, D. Mm-hmm. So I had mentioned that if Jim Cornette went through and gave any sort of an apology whatsoever, that I would apologize for my words towards Jim Cornette. So I know that he's listening right now. Yes. Anyway, yes. So in all seriousness, though, if you are listening or happen to hear this, Jim, I apologize for my rhetoric and my verbiage to you last week. So the fuck you, motherfucker, double cheeseburger.
Yes, we can steal from other fucking shows.
Holy shit. So what he went on, his apology consisted, I actually have the transcript of it right here. And again, these are Jim's words, not mine. I do want to say to Sonny Kiss and his boyfriend, who I'm not acquainted with either, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but if you're going to be in the wrestling business, people are going to say a lot worse things. If I've hurt Sonny's feelings by using the term transvestite, which I thought, since it's in the dictionary, I thought they left the dirty words out, or insinuating that he might have worked at the drag show, then I do feel bad about that. But here's also the thing. If I do go to the drag show and in the chorus line, out comes a guy dressed like a wrestler, am I not allowed an explanation there too? It's all context. If you're going to have a flamboyant gimmick, whether it's based on your real life or not, you're going to have to expect people to comment on it. So that was a thinly veiled sorry that you took it the wrong way from Jim Cornette. However,
it's a start.
It is a start. Realistically speaking, as I said during last week's episode, he is 100% within his First Amendment right to say the things he did initially, which may have been offensive, or may have even come across as hate speech. The bottom line is this: it is protected under the First Amendment right. Hate speech is free speech, whether you like it or not. That is the standard that has been set in the United States Supreme Court. So Jim was definitely within his right to say those things. Now, he obviously received a lot of blowback and a lot of criticism from that, most of which those people that chose to criticize him for those things, those were protected as well. So it's one of those things where people need to understand the nuance of things. And as I put everything together with Jim, I see that he didn't necessarily mean anything damaging or anything negative to Sonny Kiss in a personal manner. And essentially what he was looking for was context. And I understand that. However, he could have chosen his words a little bit more carefully, as we all have. You know, we've all blurted things out that may or may not have caused a cringe when we've gone back and listened to them. So, in long story short, again, Jim, I apologize, and I apologize for the "fuck you" comment.
He needs to work on his gay terms, right?
He just needs to work on phrasing all
sensitivity.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are your take on it, man?
So it was the first time I've ever listened to his show.
Yeah.
And I was kind of listening to it in reverse, right? Because everything happened. And then, you know, he got all the blowback or, you know, and so I get him and his generation, where they come from. Because I listened to the whole episode about AEW Double or Nothing, and then I listened to this week's where he had the summary of all parts of what happened. And I think if I listen to it, it's kind of like our show where, you know, we have an opinion, right? We'll say things, and some people may or may not agree with it, but where we kind of are different is we are not insensitive to those kind of people or feelings or different things. And so listening to it, I think the description of the battle royal is kind of harsh, right?
Yeah.
I think if I listened to his apology, it was kind of glossed or glazed over. He did apologize, right? And he talked about how his wife has a lot of friends that are, you know, in San Francisco and from that community and things like that. But I think, you know, he probably did the best job that he could, given where he comes from and given his probably frame of mind. And so, I mean, I think he will be more cautious going forward because, you know, he also mentioned that he managed a character that had some of those overtones.
Okay. So here's the problem with that.
Yes.
And this is the perception problem. So he used the word flamboyant when he was talking here about how he addressed Sonny Kiss. If I saw someone dressed flamboyantly. Well, he managed Exotic Adrian Street. Exotic Adrian Street was a great character. He was a very flamboyant character. He was not a gay character. Okay. To all my knowledge, that I know of, he was not a gay man either. He was just playing a flamboyant character.
Right. Much like Dream.
Right. Like Velveteen Dream would be a flamboyant character. Exactly. the thing is, Sonny Kiss is a gay man.
Yeah.
And okay, so if in describing this he would have said, look at this guy flamboyantly dressed.
Yeah.
Different picture.
Absolutely.
But he just went straight for the word transvestite.
Yeah.
That was the first thought in his head. Okay. Now, again, that's freedom of speech. That's your right to your opinion. And that's all right. I mean, people have the right to say things. However, the one thing that got me is that Dustin Thomas started off the Battle Royal in the ring, and he is a man who has hands but no legs, essentially.
Right.
Okay? And the way that he is referred to, I believe, is he's a bilateral amputee wrestler, and he's been wrestling on the independents for a while. And Jim Cornette started this whole Battle Royal thing by basically saying that this man's disability was a fucking gimmick.
Yeah.
Essentially. That this whole Battle Royal then was a gimmick. He started with this guy. Now, Sonny Kiss's boyfriend is the one who picked up on the transvestite remarks. And so Sonny heard that, or Sonny's boyfriend heard that, and that's where things got the steam because he posted it, right?
Yeah.
I think after listening to Cornette's take on it, it's even more amazing to me that the overall take was basically saying that they were doing a gimmick battle royal, that by doing so they weren't making themselves a legitimate company.
Right.
And now what you've just done is delegitimize someone like Dustin Thomas because he has a disability.
Yeah.
Now it's not a real battle royal. It's just a gimmick. Mm-hmm. Including then calling Sonny a transvestite and lumping this in with calling Luchasaurus that dino guy, or whatever he said about, the dino character. He basically has now said, here's a gay man and an amputee. They're no different from the fucking dinosaur.
Yeah.
That's why Luchasaurus's response on Twitter was pretty direct, because it was a fucking shot that shouldn't have been, it should never have been shot.
And for the people that don't know, what did Luchasaurus say?
For people don't know, let me find the Twitter. But that's, I mean, you've got the fucking phone in your hand too, and you're not looking up, dick.
Whoops.
So, but that's the whole thing, is that this whole Battle Royal, it was essentially Cornette looking at it as if it was the gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17. That this was not a legit thing. And to me, when you start saying things about things not being legit, you then are, devaluing what these guys are actually doing. And yeah, I mean, these are characters that you're not used to. But we're also talking about a man who used to run around with a fucking tennis racket.
Yeah.
Hey, that was a solid steel tennis racket.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, if anyone should know about the characters, and, it's a twofold. It's like, how many people have said shit about Jim Cornette over the years in the way that his character, acted. By the way, Luchasaurus has a lot of stuff on his Twitter.
He does. He's very active.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. It was on May 31st. Jim Cornette can hate on dinosaurs in wrestling all he wants. I've dealt with it for 65 million years. But I have zero tolerance when it comes to hate on the self-expression of my talented friend Sonny Kiss. There's no place for homophobia or any of Jim's antiquated views. So, I mean, that says a lot. Now, again, the question is, was it homophobic? Well, unfortunately, if the first thing that leapt into his head, I know what he was going for was equating it to a Johnny B. Bad, a flamboyant character.
Right.
Say the fucking word flamboyant, but at the same time, it was just bad from the start because of the fact that, what do you say, D? Something like, what is that guy? Is that guy standing up?
Yeah, he's like, is he standing? Is he laying down? I don't know what he was
Propped
doing.
Up.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
For real, Jim.
So I think and again, we said this last week, and that was, it's not even the fact that it was this one thing. It's a buildup of different things that he tends to say. He has every right to say them. And there are people that have every right to defend what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. That's constitutionally protected. That's wonderful. That gives us the right to say what we're saying.
Yep.
But when you are going to put it out in the public, and we know the same thing ourselves, what you say is a reflection of what people are thinking you are saying.
Right.
Yep.
So it's perception, and you have to be able to, man up, which, Steve just did,
Yeah.
Luckily, Steve's, didn't get any phone calls from Jim Cornette. So,
Motherfucker.
yeah. So
I'm gonna get I'll get a message from Simon Street because I think he owes him an apology. So I'm gonna get a recorded message.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, but okay.
And-
No, I mean, yeah.
yeah, I mean that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Really quick, I'm gonna throw back to 3 count.
Okay.
And this thought just hit me. One of the solutions there was bringing back John Cena as a heel. Well, there's a problem in even making Roman Reigns a heel. There's a very big problem.
Okay.
People in wrestling go face, heel, face, heel, etc., throughout their careers.
Mm-hmm.
There's only been one instance, and that's Hulk Hogan, where the heel turn worked, where it impacted everything on a different level. And that only lasted for 2 years before it got old.
Right.
But he's the only one who has been able to, and not just go, because most people didn't see him back when he was a heel.
Yeah.
The only thing you saw of Hogan was Thunder Lips in Rocky III.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically playing his Hulk Hogan persona in the WWE or F at that time for that character. And then when he went to AWA, that's when Hulkamania and the whole Say Your Prayers, that's when he found that character.
Right.
And he ran that character for the longest time, and then he went and made an impactful heel turn. The problem with someone like John Cena is everyone wants to go back to that heel.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Roman Reigns. When I go back to the original Shield type heel, you just want to go back to the past.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Austin. The heel turn didn't work. Right? It became a comic act.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock, when The Rock came back, and all of a sudden he was this heel with the helicopter entrance of the Hollywood. It didn't fucking work because it wasn't impactful, because we've already seen these guys as heels before their turns. So that's just my feeling. Again, is turning someone heel is not necessarily equaling ratings. It just worked in one instance, and that was Hogan.
Right. Okay.
Because
I see
no
what you're
one had
saying.
seen it.
Right. That makes sense. So let's stop talking about heel, Roman Reigns, heel, Cena, heel.
I think with Roman Reigns, I honestly think he doesn't have to full-fledged turn heel. But I know you're a fan of when he dialed it up a notch and was just this badass, and he wasn't taking any shit, and he was just, beating people down. I know you could do that and not have to necessarily be a full-fledged heel.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like Austin when he stunned everybody.
No doubt. Well, listen, everyone. We love when you listen to us. We thank you for subscribing. Just to let you know, we got a big event coming up. We're gonna be at Boulder Station the last Monday of June 24th at the Kicks Lounge. It's free, guys. Just come out, hang. There's gonna be you can purchase drinks, you can purchase food, but we're gonna have a live podcast show there, and we're even gonna have ROH in Las Vegas' own Kenny King there, which is exciting. So come out and hang. Don't forget, after the show as well, we're actually going to put Raw on the TV screens. It's going to be an exciting time, and to be around a bunch of wrestling fans, I think that this is going to be something that can that's going to grow, and you're just going to want to look for this happening every end of the month, and we're going to do our best to provide that for you. Again, Boulder Station at the Kicks Lounge, the last Monday of every month, but for this month it'll be the 24th. 6 p.m. is the start time. All right, so don't forget to listen to our next podcast on our Father's Day special. Damian Drake and his father Sean. It's a great interview. You're going to enjoy it. Until then, you all, we're out.
Thank you so much for checking out that video. If you liked what we did there, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new here, slap that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you can be a part of the notification squad. Follow us on social media at Vegas Bad Boys with a Z on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, we will see you in the next video.